Chapter 601. Tick. The turn changed. Battle stage 3. 30s. Dake drew 2 new magic cards from the top of the deck as he observed the situation. Isn't that the 3rd-tier magic elf? Dake frowned slightly as he recalled the magic elf that caused the strange phenomenon in the forest. Although he did not see it with his own eyes, he was quite sure that it was summoned by White Gouda, and it was at least as strong as the 3rd-tier magic elf. To be honest, he really wanted to see the true face of that magic elf. However, if he thought about it carefully, it was highly possible that it was not a magic elf personally crafted by White. Just like how he had Paradise, it was normal for White to have a magic elf that was not personally crafted by him. Remember this. https://m. Vipkanchu. VIP. So, this 6-star magic elf is his trump card? With that thought in mind, Dake added a new magic card into his hand and drew the Bliss 3 that he had been holding since the beginning. As a 6-star magic elf, the 9-tailed fox was not inferior to White's magic elf. However, he suddenly had a thought as he saw the fox demon on the field looking up at him. Both of their gazes met, and Dake immediately realized what the fox demon was thinking. He could not help but put down the magic card in his hand and nodded at the fox demon. After that, the fox demon lowered its head and raised its eyes. It was in high spirits. After evolving into a 9-tailed fox, it gained a higher 3 sizes and stronger killing moves, but it lost its human form. It did not like to bite and kill in its beast form, and it was not just because the Bliss occupied more of its brain after evolving into a 9-tailed fox. Standing on its 2 feet and fighting like a human was its favorite and most habitual form. As for the difference in 3 sizes between it and the 6-star magic elf, it could rely on its transformation to make up for it. Fox Demon, use your killing move, Virtual Fox. The Master's order came from above. After the Demon Fox Beast obtained the explicit permission, it quietly condensed a green leaf on its fingertip and placed it on top of its head in front of the 6-star magic elf. Then, with a flash of light, the Demon Fox's slender body began to expand rapidly. 2 meters, 3 meters, and even higher. When the Demon Fox Beast completed its transformation, it was almost the same size as the humanoid magic elf that was burning with blood flames. However, there were no bloody flames on its body, indicating that it was a passive sure-kill skill. On the other hand, the Fox Demon Beast's Virtual Fox could only replicate the opponent's body structure, but it could not replicate the opponent's magic power and ultimate skills. However, this was enough for the Demon Fox Beast. It suddenly took a step forward and felt the sudden surge of power. The boiling fighting spirit in its heart was no longer suppressed. Roar! The Demon Fox Beast suddenly roared and charged ahead of the human-shaped magic elf. After its transformation, its legs were extremely long, and each step could cross several meters. Its speed was also extremely fast, and it approached the human-shaped magic elf in the blink of an eye. It was only when the Demon Fox Beast used its fist to fiercely smash the human-shaped magic elf's abdomen that the White Gouda on the red side suddenly woke up and hurriedly yelled, "Blood-burning Beastman, dodge!" However, it was already too late to dodge. The powerful punch was like a terrifying hammer that could break a city. It fiercely smashed into the blood-burning Beastman's abdomen, and even a clear fist mark protruded from its back. The blood-burning Beastman's body instantly bent, and a painful whimper came from under the mask. Damn it! White suddenly clenched his fist. Just now, his attention was attracted by the Demon Fox Beast's transformation, and he actually didn't notice and didn't give out orders in time. This kind of low-level mistake could be said to be fatal in a magic elf duel. Fortunately, the opponent was only a 3-star magic elf. How could this be called a 3-star magic elf? White really didn't know what to say. He hurriedly commanded, "Activate the Vortex Mask." The Demon Fox Beast originally wanted to follow up with another attack, but the mask on the blood-burning Beastman's face suddenly spun inwards. That red and white vortex mask suddenly gave off a strange and terrifying feeling, as if it was going to suck in one's soul. The Demon Fox Beast subconsciously took half a step back, and its eyes were filled with vigilance. However, the blood-burning Beastman didn't counterattack. Its whole body was suddenly sucked in by the spinning mask, and then it instantly disappeared and reappeared in the next moment. "Attack the magic elf ball!" White suddenly roared. He had never used this magic elf in front of others before, so no one knew the specific use of the vortex mask. Under normal circumstances, it would be impossible to dodge such a sudden attack. Moreover, there was bound to be a delay between the Magister's order and the magic elf's execution. White's eyes were filled with excitement. Although Dake's Demon Fox Beast made him feel shocked, he was going to be the first to win. Card name, Blood-Burning Beastman. Type, Elf card. Level, Race, Bird Beast. Attribute, Grappling/Evil. Magic power, 2600. Attack, 3000. Defense, 2500. Killing skills, Blood-Burning Battle Technique, Secret Beast Curse, Vortex Mask. With the Blood-Burning Beastman space attack of 3000, and the Blood-Burning Battle Technique that increased its attack and speed by burning its blood, this punch could cause at least 3500 damage. And in this Silver Cup competition, the Magic Elf Ball's life barrier only had 4000 points of magic power. If everything went smoothly, he could only add another kick, and the life barrier would break. However, with the Blood-Burning Beastman's back, he didn't see Ivan, who had already retreated to the Magic Elf Ball. After Ivan reached 2-star, he had already released 3 killing skills in a row. His 500 points of magic power had been greatly consumed, so he naturally couldn't charge at the front. Thus, guarding the Magic Elf Ball became the mission he found for himself. When the blood-burning Beastman's shadow shrouded him, he suddenly stood up on his hind legs and used his tail to support himself on the ground. His 2 pink claws hugged the Magic Elf Ball tightly. Then, a strange mist appeared on his face. That mist twisted like a whirlpool, as if it was going to suck in a person's soul. When the blood-burning Beastman's fist landed, Ivan and the Magic Elf Ball he was hugging were suddenly sucked into the whirlpool and disappeared in an instant. Ivan, who had used his last killing skill, Imitation, hugged the Magic Elf Ball and panted heavily in the center of the field, but his eyes were exceptionally bright. BZZT, BZZT, BZZT. Kettle, who was also preparing to use his killing skill, gave a compliment. On the blue team's platform, Dake Dimming also retracted the magic power on his fingertips. Different from what the White Gouda had expected, Dake guessed that the Vortex Mask was likely to be a teleportation-type killing skill when it was activated, so he quickly reacted. It couldn't be helped, because he had thought of a similar battle strategy before. Perhaps this was what it meant to be experienced and knowledgeable. He looked at the cards in his hand. Fairy Ivan, Moon Pendant, Bliss 3, Underworld Soul Ring, Scabbard, Weapon Form, Underworld Soul Ring, and Scabbard, Weapon Form, were the 2 magic cards he had just obtained. In the name of Dake Dimming, I summon the Scabbard. As the summon was completed, the Holy Sword, which was slimmer than the original Scabbard, appeared in front of him. Card name, Scabbard. Type, Fairy card. Level, *******. Race, Undying. Attribute, Steel/Spectre. Magic power, 1500. Attack, 2200. Defense, 1800. Killing skills, Weapon Form, Combo Slash, Sword Dance, Holy Sword. This time, he didn't give the Scabbard to the Fox Demon as a weapon. Instead, he said softly, "Scabbard, turn into a fairy." Thus, the Scabbard changed from a weapon form to a magic fairy at an extremely fast speed. Clang! It let out a cry of excitement. Although it was happy to be restrained by others, sometimes it still wanted to have some initiative. Dake looked at the excited Scabbard, raised his hand, and pointed at the red magic ball in the summoning area. He said, "Do you see that magic ball? Slash it hard." Clang! The Scabbard shook its sword, and the eye in the middle of the sword blinked hard. Then, it shot out with a ribbon that was as thin as an arm. Whoosh! The sound of the wind lingered in the air. Dake suddenly had the illusion that he was using a sword to kill the enemy, and he was delighted. While he was summoning, the Fox Demon, which had been shaken by the Whirlpool Mask, turned around and charged at the blood-burning beast-man, with burning anger. The two magic fairies that looked the same apart from the blood flames on their bodies started a fierce battle in the red area. The blood-burning beast-man was in the mist field. Although the blood flames on its body didn't dissipate, in reality, it was only left with light effects. It couldn't continue burning its life force, magic power, to increase its attack power. The power of both sides was on the same level. In this situation, the fox demon easily gained the advantage. Also in the red area, Kettle tried its best to shrink back to avoid being affected by the battle. It knew its own value very well, and it also knew that its killing skills had a very long cooldown. It could only be used once in each battle, so it needed to be saved for a crucial moment. For example, when the fox demon gave the blood-burning beast-man a heavy blow, it would use Power Trick and Defense Split to reduce the blood-burning beast-man's defense. On the other side, little Ivan sat on the ground with a thud. It hugged the magic ball and looked left and right, up and down. On the red arena, White Gouda's heart was empty after failing to steal from his opponent. He quickly started to summon the next magic card. The transition between offense and defense in a magic duel was very fast. After every attack failed, one had to be prepared to defend. Therefore, when the single scabbard burst out, a new magic fairy appeared in his summoning area. It was his first 3-star magic fairy, Troll. Similar to the Blood series magic fairies, his Troll also had the killing skill, Berserk. However, Berserk was different from blood-burning battle technique. Its abnormal state was an on-off type. As long as it was activated outside the mist field, Paradise, it would enter the Berserk state. Card name, Troll. Type, Fairy card. Level, ****. Race, Demi-human. Attribute, Normal. Magic power, 1200. Attack, 1500. Defense, 1400. Killing skills, Sacrificial Ram, Berserk, Roar. The troll opened its bloody mouth and roared angrily at the single scabbard. However, the single scabbard did not stop. It pulled out its scabbard in the air, revealing the sharp blade. Then, with the blade as the axis, it spun. Single scabbard, use, sword dance. Under Dake's command, the single scabbard spun even faster. The violent airflow wrapped around the blade, forming a terrifying storm. It narrowed its eyes and concentrated its mental strength to the limit. Its aura also increased as it spun. Finally, the moment it closed in on the troll, its aura reached its peak. In the blink of an eye, the storm had already penetrated the troll's body, causing the storm to expand from within and suddenly explode. Bang! The troll's gigantic body exploded into mana dregs under this sword strike. White Gouda's expression suddenly changed. Perhaps it was because Dake had not used the single scabbard in front of others for too long, causing many people to subconsciously forget that it was an attack-type magic guide spirit that surpassed the peak of 4-star. Under the Berserk sword dance, its original 2200 attack was doubled. The power of that sword was enough to instantly kill the troll with its thick skin and flesh. Oh! The commentator Zach Wilson's strange voice still lingered in the air. The single scabbard continued to follow Dake's command and chased after the red magic guide ball. Rise! White Gouda hurriedly released his magic power and controlled the red magic guide ball to fly into the air. For some reason, he always felt an unusual pressure when fighting against Dake Dimming. Even though he was surrounded by danger in the simulated battle against Luo Boat, he was able to calmly calculate and make decisions. However, it was extremely difficult for Dake to do so. No! White Gouda suddenly cried out. While he was distracted, the magic guide spirit with the aura of a holy sword had already caught up to the red magic guide ball. Bang! The red magic guide ball's life barrier was pierced, and the tip of the single scabbard almost pierced through. For 000 to 600, even though the life barrier was not fully damaged because it was flying in the same direction, it still lost 1,400 points. 2 strikes. When the single scabbard caught up again, the red magic guide ball could only take 2 strikes. White Gouda frowned, and his expression became more and more nervous. If the magic guide ball could take 2 strikes, he would have one more chance to summon. But this time, what would he summon? What else could he use to resolve the situation? In the name of White Gouda, I summon Forbidden Love. A pink mist in the shape of a young girl drilled out of the card and flew towards the red magic guide ball at an extremely fast speed. White Gouda controlled the red magic guide ball to fly back. When he took the time to summon, he took a solid hit. Fine cracks began to appear on the life barrier of the red magic conducting ball. His magic power dropped from 2600 points to 900 points again. The situation took a turn for the worse. Just a moment ago, the players from both sides were still fighting back and forth. White Gouda's blood-burning beastman even posed a fatal threat to the Dake Diming's magic guide ball. But in the blink of an eye, White Gouda's giant beast was killed in an instant, and the magic guide ball was chased until it only had 900 HP left. And on the ground, without the Magister's command, the blood-burning beastman was completely at a disadvantage. Kettle even felt that using a sure kill skill against it was already a very wasteful action. The demon fox's punches hit the blood-burning beastman until it cried out in pain, and its magic power dropped rapidly. Seeing that the 6-star magic guide spirit was about to be completely destroyed by the 3-star magic guide spirit, the magic guide ball in the sky exploded first. In addition, it was refined from the great sin of greed, so it didn't fall for this trick at all. Therefore, when Forbidden Love's pink fog hugged it, it directly passed through it. And there was a limit to how fast a Magister could control the magic guide ball. No matter how high White's magic power talent was, it couldn't break through the limits of this hardware. The magic guide ball was caught up again, and with one strike, the life barrier that only had 900 points of magic power left was completely destroyed. At that moment, battle phase changed from the 3rd round to the 4th round. Boom! The demon fox threw the blood-burning beastman to the ground and then elbowed it from above, crushing its chest. This 6-star magic guide sprite completely exploded under this fatal blow. Standing in the starlight of magic power, the demon fox was full of energy. It was as if the impulse that had been accumulating all this time by Dake's side was finally being vented to its heart's content. It narrowed its eyes, and from its 3-meter-tall beastman form, it gradually shrank back to its original form. At this moment, the commentator and audience's applause boomed loudly. It instantly drowned out the voices of the referee and commentator. The battle has ended. Winner, Dake Diming. Although I won, I don't know why, but it seems like I didn't win. At the same time, in the blue team's platform, Dake was deep in thought about life. Victory was so natural that he didn't enjoy it as much as he should have. So, where did the problem come from? Was it because White's improvement wasn't obvious enough? Or was it because he didn't summon Fairy Ibu, as he wished, and then perform Fairy Ibu plus Moon Pendant? That wasn't right either. In reality, in the Misty Arena, Bliss, every magic guide spirit that had the power of Bliss would receive an additional Body of Charm effect. In other words, even if a 2-star Fairy Ibu, Bliss, or the Demon Fox wore the Moon Pendant, it would still be effective. But when it really entered a more intense situation, he didn't take advantage of this. It's here. Dake fiercely slammed his palms and muttered, I could have won even more easily. Yes, as long as the Demon Fox wore the Moon Pendant, even that blood-burning beastman wouldn't be able to escape the Demon Fox's charm. At that time, there wouldn't be a need for such an intense battle, and he would be able to easily win. Dake suddenly realized that he seemed to have gotten used to relying on overwhelming strength to win, and had gradually forgotten about technique. His eyes gradually brightened, and his heart became clear. Relying on overwhelming strength to win was indeed refreshing. But once he met an opponent who was stronger, it would be easy to break. After he thought it through, he raised his head, and prepared to say a few words to White, and end this battle in a friendly manner. But just as he raised his head, he suddenly realized that White's expression wasn't right. Is it because you lost? Dake didn't think too much about it. Since White was in such a bad mood because she lost the battle, if he said anything more, it would be like adding insult to injury, so he might as well not say anything. In short, he still had this quality. So he didn't look at White anymore, and instead took out the magic guide cards, and recalled the magic guide spirits one by one. Scabbard, Demon Fox, Ibu, and the completely useless Hoo-Hoo, come back. Hoo-Hoo. Go to hell. Siren. After tidying up the cards, Dake prepared to leave the stage. But suddenly, there was a ripple next to him. He subconsciously moved to the side, and Senior Sister Judy suddenly teleported to his side, and that thick but not greasy fragrance wafted over. Dake was a little allergic to this kind of fragrance, and hurriedly pretended to cough and cover his nose. The pressure on the index has been very heavy recently, I can't increase it anymore. Judy glanced at Dake and smiled. Don't worry, it's the post-match interview now. Because the competition schedule is tight, we only have 3 minutes. Dake nodded. 3 minutes, right here? That was quite long. The competition wasn't even 3 minutes. Judy replied, yes. I've always felt that contestants should be interviewed on the contestant stage. For the duelists, the contestant stage is the battlefield. Then she changed the topic and said delicately, it just so happens that I recently refined a magic guide spirit with the ability to teleport, so I wanted to try it. Dake asked curiously, where? Senior Sister Judy blinked and said, guess. Dake glanced at her scars, which made her look thin in her clothes, and shook his head. I can't guess, and I don't want to guess. Let's enter the interview segment. What do you want to ask? Senior Judy raised the microphone and asked, ladies and gentlemen, the first winner of this year's Silver Cup is asking you, what do you want to ask? The spectators outside the arena immediately began to clamor. The shouts were mixed with applause, and it was impossible to hear clearly. However, Senior Judy still pretended to listen, and then, as if she really heard it, she pointed the microphone at Dake and asked, it seems that the audience is very curious. What do you think of this year's Silver Cup? Ah. Dake instinctively felt that this wasn't a question that should be answered by a student, but he still said, the Silver Cup is very good, the Silver Cup. It provides a very good stage for the second years to showcase themselves. I think that there will definitely be hard-working people who stand out in this competition and obtain the recognition of more people. Senior Judy asked, is this also your wish? Dake glanced at her, then shook his head and said, I don't need it. Senior Judy couldn't help but smile. I think so too. Then, can you talk about your goal in this year's Silver Cup? I mean, top 8, runner-up, champion, and so on? Dake thought for a while and said, it's still too early to talk about this, right? There will be a lot of variables in the competition, you and I can't predict it. Senior Judy asked curiously, what are the variables? Dake said lightly, maybe one day I won't want to participate. Senior Judy was stunned, then immediately said, do you want to focus on the Golden Cup? Dake glanced at Judy again, then faced the audience and said, no. The Golden Cup is only an opportunity for us second years to experience a high-end duel. This year is not my year. Judy blinked and said, so, you're sure you want to participate in the Golden Cup? Dake said, participating in the Golden Cup is an assignment assigned by the professor. Judy immediately said loudly, looks like we do have a chance to see Dake Diming's amazing performance on the stage of the Golden Cup. I really hope he can go all the way and become a historical legend. The winner's interview is over. Let's welcome the next group of contestants. Dake slowly walked down from the contestant stage. He didn't mind saying more in the interview, and he didn't mind Senior Judy's words to hype up the audience. But the Silver Cup, to be honest, he might not be able to reach the end. In the elimination rounds, he would probably only finish the minimum 10 rounds. According to the competition rules, it was normal for someone to surpass him. If he was lucky enough to reach the top 8, then he would consider fighting for the championship. As for the Golden Cup, he would definitely participate. When he entered the contestant passage, Dake saw White leaning against the wall and thinking about something. He thought for a bit, then walked over and said, White, when did you make your burning blood beast man? White looked up, and his expression seemed to have softened a lot. It seemed that the loss was only temporary. When he saw Dake, he said, "During the holidays. I was an adventurer during the holidays, and my luck was pretty good." An adventurer? Doc pointed to the front and gestured for them to walk as he asked, "Is the adventure outside different from the one in the academy?" White said, "How do I put this? Outside the academy, magisters are very rare. If you show your worth, the companions you meet during your adventures will take care of you. Of course, there are also people who have bad intentions. But I have a good eye for people." Dake looked up and said, "The most evil thing in the world is the human heart. Although there are conflicts in the academy, we're all students and have a bottom line. The same can't be said for the people outside. But that's what makes life interesting. As long as you live long enough, you'll meet all kinds of people. In fact, I've thought about going out on my own, but I can't settle down yet." White asked curiously, "Do you have troubles too?" Dake nodded and said, "I'm also human." White felt that there was something wrong with this conversation, but he didn't think too much about it. After he found out that Dake also had troubles, he suddenly felt a lot more cheerful. As they chatted, he even asked, "Right, in the duel just now, did I cause you any trouble? I mean, did you have the idea that I'm also a troublesome person?" "Ah." Dake opened his mouth and quickly racked his brain. "Yes, when your burning blood beast man suddenly teleported to my magic conducting ball, it really gave me a fright." White walked away, satisfied. Dake shook his head and walked in another direction. His next match was in the 11th match. According to the winner's interview after each match, it would take a long time, so there was no need to stay in the waiting room. When he returned to the spectator seats, Pittan had already taken his seat and moved to Dolong's side. Dake sat down in Pittan's seat and asked, "Has the match started?" "It just went up." Pittan pointed at the field. On both sides of the stands, the two contestants had already gone up. On the red side was D. Anna Gretbel. On the blue side was the second-year provost of the House of Fools, Vanessa Bolt. Vanessa looked ordinary. Her eyes and hair were the common brown color, but her overall temperament was gentle and pleasant. After she walked up to the contestant stand, she didn't have any special reaction. She just casually greeted D. Anna. But D. Anna had always been very friendly and started chattering enthusiastically the moment she opened her mouth. The atmosphere between the two girls was much better than the two boys in the first match. And because Vanessa was from the House of Fools, the commentator didn't have much to say, so the atmosphere was not very lively. But there was always a lion's roar from the audience outside the field, which was scary. Although the beginning of the match was very simple, this duel was unexpectedly fierce. Dake was originally just watching casually while replenishing the magic of the enchanted fairies, but later he couldn't help but watch seriously. Vanessa's deck was very normal, but it was really small and had all the essentials. It had almost all types of magic cards. D. Anna still used the Bear series from the first year as the core, but paired it with a large number of weapon cards and equipment cards. In the end, she even took out an armed card. Although the armed card didn't take long to completely drain the magic of the enchanted fairies, it had an extraordinary effect. It could only be said that in areas where Dake didn't pay attention, D. Anna was also quietly working hard. But considering that D. Anna was still not proficient in the magic language, she might have a unique method of refining weapons or armor. Dake couldn't help but have a strong interest in it. But he quickly suppressed this interest that he shouldn't have. Although he felt that as long as he asked, he would definitely get the answer. D. Anna's mouth couldn't close at all. But if he really did that, he would lose his bottom line. He couldn't spy on her secrets because of that. D. Anna and Vanessa fought for a long time, and finally D. Anna won with a slight advantage. And the audience was finally addicted to watching. After all, although a duel that ended in 3 rounds was exciting, it was far less exciting than a duel that ended in 30 rounds. The audience preferred to watch a long and exciting duel. After the duel ended, it was the winner's interview session. But when Judy asked D. Anna questions, D. Anna praised Vanessa from beginning to end, and she was so nervous that her little heart was pounding. She almost lost and so on. The atmosphere was very warm. After D. Anna left the stage, Dake continued to replenish the magic of the magic elves and then raised his spirits to watch the duel. Anna and Vanessa's duel made him realize that even the Silver Cup had something to learn. No duelist could be underestimated. In the blink of an eye, it was the 7th duel. The head of the Magic Academy, Heidi Euphemia. The 7 chapters of the Knight Academy, Justin Wayne. One after another, they stepped onto the contestant platform. Justin Wayne had a good reputation in the Knight Academy, and he was also quite famous. Heidi Euphemia was originally just a little follower behind Saraswati, but after becoming the head, she began to show off and gained a certain amount of fame. The two of them were very similar, whether it was in their grades or their current positions. But for the audience outside the arena, these two were very new faces. The commentator, Zach Wilson, introduced them for quite a long time, gradually letting the audience know these two people. After that, the duel between the two of them was so exciting that it didn't disappoint the audience. Dake had been carefully watching from the beginning, but halfway through, he was distracted by Teddy Dolan, who was beside him, being too noisy. "You're the head of the class, can't you be more steady?" he couldn't help but scold. Dolan looked embarrassed and said shyly, "I'm just cheering for the opponent of the Knight Academy." Piston also had an expression that said it was only right. "The opponent of the Knight Academy is our friend, Dake, but our biggest opponent this year is the Magic Academy." Piston paused and thought for a moment. "That seems to be the case." Dolan laughed dryly and pretended to continue watching the duel. Dake couldn't help but smile. Perhaps this was youth. After a person's youth passed, they always wanted to return to their youth. But now that he was standing on this stage that should be brimming with youth, it was difficult for him to make a move. Of course, his problem was a bit special, but it could also be seen that memories and reality were indeed two different things. Memories were always better. Reality was always hard to reach. Come to think of it, did Dolan have a crush on Heidi? Of course, as a friend, Dake wouldn't say much. The 7th duel ended with Justin Wayne's victory. Heidi Euphemia's performance was already very outstanding, but Justin Wayne's improvement was even greater and made people look at him in a new light. The rest of the duels only lasted until the 10th duel. After the interview of the winner of the 10th duel ended, Senior Sister Judy announced an hour of rest. The school band also went on stage one after another. During this time, the duel branches all over the world would deliver delicious food to the audience. The audience could choose to eat in the duel branches cafeteria while listening to elegant music. They could also take their tickets out to eat and drink. After an hour, it was time for the evening duel. The first duel of the evening duel was also the 11th duel of the day. Dake Dimming, the first to go on stage and perform well today, would duel with Teddy Dolan of House Dolan. On campus, the students would naturally seize the time to deal with their physiological needs. An hour was enough for everyone to line up in the cafeteria. Dake called Dolan and Pittan and followed the crowd out of the outdoor duel arena. The sky was already slightly dark and only half of the sun was left. One could see the burning clouds on the horizon. By the time they returned after dinner, the moon might be high in the sky. It was Dake's first duel at night, so it was quite interesting. However, Dolan next to him was a bit nervous. After the three of them ordered their food, they found a table for 4 and sat down. Dake sat across from Dolan. As Dolan ate, he suddenly picked up a meatball from his plate and placed it on Dake's plate. Then he stared at him eagerly. Dake glanced at the fragrant meatball and looked up to meet Dolan's eyes. The two didn't speak and just stared at each other for half a minute. Dolan was completely defeated. Pittan snickered on the side. Dake shrugged and continued to eat. In short, he couldn't go easy on him. Dolan couldn't say this himself. Of course, Dake wouldn't say it either. If he really did go easy on him and beat him to pieces, how embarrassing would that be? After dinner, Dake and the other two followed the crowd back to the outdoor duel arena. There were no lights in the duel arena. However, there were huge balls of light floating in the air all over the arena. The balls of light emitted just enough light to illuminate the path and not make the night as bright as day. On the dueling platform in the middle of the arena, a total of 8 balls of light gathered the light and illuminated the duel arena. It was like the stage of a concert, the focus of the light forever. As the students and professors in the ring gradually returned, the audience seats outside the arena gradually filled up. Arvette and the two viscountesses ate a little and quickly returned to their seats. Then she realized that the eldest prince next door, Charles, didn't seem to have moved at all. She thought for a moment and called for a nearby waiter to prepare a convenient dinner and send it over. The waiter didn't dare to delay and hurriedly went to prepare. Not long after, a dinner that seemed to be cooked with magic was placed in front of the eldest prince. The waiter of the duel arena in the capital specially pushed a dining cart over to make a table. The eldest prince frowned as he looked at the dinner in front of him. He wanted to scold them, but he couldn't help but look over when he suddenly learned that it was a gift from the Duchess. Arvette saw him look over and nodded at him with a kind expression. The eldest prince's mouth twitched, and he quickly squeezed out a perfect aristocratic smile. Then, he took his knife and fork and sat down to eat. Despite being the center of attention, the eldest prince's bearing was elegant and calm. He didn't show any reluctance on the surface. He didn't dare. Even if Arvette had bad intentions, he had to pinch his nose and eat it, let alone Arvette's good intentions. Otherwise, the news of the eldest prince and the Valkyrie's discord would spread like a bird that could fly. Perhaps it would spread throughout the capital before tomorrow morning. Although the Valkyrie was clearly on the eldest princess's side, she didn't actually fall out with the eldest prince. The eldest prince couldn't bear the price of falling out with the Valkyrie. The incident in the audience seats was just a small interlude. It was nothing more than the elders expressing their concern for the younger generation. The younger generation gladly accepted it. With most of the audience outside the venue arriving, today's Silver Cup finally entered the evening stage. Dake and Doran also received a reminder to prepare for the next round. There were many people with them. Dake even found Luo Boat among them. The evening stage lasted for about 2 hours, starting from the 11th round to the 20th round. Dake didn't go to the contestant waiting room. Instead, he went directly to the contestant passage and waited at the entrance. Doran followed behind him. He was no longer as nervous as he was during dinner. After all, he was a descendant of a large family. After being tempered for so long, Doran's psychological adjustment ability was already quite good. Not only was he no longer nervous, but his fighting spirit was also gradually burning. In the entire second grade, almost everyone who was ambitious had Dake Dimming as their goal. Although Doran's relationship with Dake wasn't bad, he also subconsciously regarded him as a goal to catch up and surpass. Tonight, he would take another step towards this goal. On the high platform, under the spotlight. After a brief speech, the host, Judy, quickly introduced the duel in the evening stage. The Academy would display the names of the contestants in the second round on a certain screen. Therefore, the audience already knew who the two contestants who would be appearing in the first round of the evening stage were. Therefore, Judy only gave a quick introduction before announcing the two contestants' entrance. After Dake and Doran heard this, they walked out of the passage and quickly arrived at the duel arena. Clap. The two of them clapped their hands in the middle and walked to the sides with their backs facing each other. In this duel, Dake was on the red side and Doran was on the blue side. After the two of them stepped onto the contestant platform, they looked in the direction of the audience almost at the same time. Dake waved at Yvette again. This time, more of the audience responded to him. He smiled slightly. After seeing Yvette's response, he turned around and looked at Doran. Doran was obviously looking for someone in the audience, but his parents seemed to have chosen an inconspicuous position and couldn't give their child courage and support at this critical moment. Get ready. It wasn't until Dake's reminder that Doran came back to his senses and quickly adjusted his state of mind. Dake had already activated the card table and put a total of 20 cards into the card slot. It was the second time today that Dake stepped onto the contestant platform, but he didn't feel much. After Doran focused his attention, he quickly calmed down and temporarily put aside the matters unrelated to the duel. Doran's improvement must be great. If he wasn't careful enough, there was a chance that he would accidentally screw up. But when Dake was ready, Doran suddenly said, "Dake, maybe you don't remember. But when I lost to you for the first time in the duel class, I already swore in my heart that one day I would win it back. Today, when I stand on the duel stage again, I only have one goal, and that is to win." Dake couldn't help but smile. Of course I remember. At that time, you went to the bathroom, right? Doran, who asked you to remember it so clearly? Dake, on the other hand, was pleased. Losing is never scary. The scary thing is not having the courage to win. I will wait for you forever. After that, he pressed his hand on top of the card deck. He quietly waited for the referee's whistle. Beep, the moment the referee blew the whistle. On the card table, behind the preparation stage, A30's countdown appeared. The duel officially began. Both contestants drew their cards at the same time. When all 5 magic cards were in his hand, Dake opened them at the same time. He glanced at them and memorized all the cards in his heart. Hawkman Wrestling, Primordial Dragon Egg, Sickle Dagger, Fantasy Beast, Ever-Changing Monster, Bliss 3, Month. But at this moment, he hesitated for the first time. Dragon Egg. Among the 5 cards in his hand, there were 3 Magic Elf cards, 1 item card, and 1 Great Sin card. His card luck was quite good. After he saw it clearly, he immediately had a few ideas of how to start. The most common one was the Hawkman Wrestling. The Hawkman Wrestling, with an attack power of 1,500, wings that could fly, and a strong fighting spirit, should be able to deal with most of the openings. If he encountered an opponent that he could not defeat, he would add on the Fantasy Beast, Ever-Changing Monster. With Bliss 3, Month, the Ever-Changing Monster could copy any second-tier magic elf, which was enough to handle the situation. Finally, in the end, it was back to the Primordial Dragon Egg. Dake grabbed the Primordial Dragon Egg with 2 fingers and raised his head slightly to look at Doran opposite him. Doran's expression was very serious, and there was a hint of joy between his eyebrows. Perhaps he had drawn a good card. Dake did not understand his current deck, nor did he know how strong it was. So, should I start with the Dragon Egg? In the end, starting with a Dragon Egg was the best strategy for this hand. But the problem was this best strategy. It was too strong. At least in front of the second-year students, it was too strong. The 30-second countdown was not much, but it was not little either. Dake didn't think for too long. The words preparation stage above the card table became battle stage. The sound of the switch also rang out. It sounded like water dripping into the water. Dake did not hesitate at this moment. He quickly pulled out the Primordial Dragon Egg and began to cast the usual summoning spell. In the name of Dake Dimeng, Magic Summoning, Primordial Dragon Egg. Only 3 seconds later, a brilliant light of summoning appeared in the summoning area of the red team, and a huge dragon egg about 1 meter tall appeared in the light. Although the dragon seed had not hatched yet, it already emitted a faint dragon's might. 12,000 plus words, 4,000 guaranteed, 8,000 plus chapters. 1515, anniversary celebration, continuation of bounty, etc. Chapter 602. It was not the first time Dake used a dragon egg in a duel. In fact, during the duel assessment at the end of the school year, he had used a dragon egg, but his opponent was white at that time. This time, his opponent was Doran, so he hesitated a little. But that was it. When he summoned the Primordial Dragon Egg, it meant that he was going to go all out. Let's not talk about whether the audience recognized this dragon egg. In short, Doran had an impression of it. His face tightened on the spot, and his lips trembled when he cast the usual summoning spell. Therefore, when he completed the summoning, dense cracks had already appeared on the eggshell of the dragon egg. Roar! The round head of the young green-eyed dragon suddenly broke the eggshell and let out a young but majestic dragon roar. Remember the website, Vipkanshu. VIP. The audience outside the field suddenly exclaimed, "Summon the second-tier magic elf." The commentator Zach Wilson's pupils shrank. This Dake Dimeng was getting more and more exaggerated. In the blue summoning area, Doran's magic elf was finally summoned. In the light of summoning, it was a dragon wildebeest. Card name, Primordial Dragon Wildebeest. Type, elf card. Level, ****. Race, Bird Beast. Attribute: Ground/Dragon. Magic Power: 1200. Attack: 1500. Defense: 1400. Killing Skills: Dragon Scale Armor, Primordial Charge. Dake knew about the Dragon Wildebeest, but the Dragon Wildebeest summoned by Doran was taller than usual. There was a thick circle of grey dragon scales on its neck, and the sharp horns on its head had spiral patterns. Its 4 hooves were like iron. After all, the Doran family was the kingdom's wall, and controlled one of the 5 major knight regiments, the Dragon Claw Knight Regiment. It was easier to obtain a variety of low-level dragon materials. After Doran went back and forth during the holidays, the probability of refining a high-quality dragon magic elf was very high. Dake was not surprised by this. Moreover, creatures like the Dragon Wildebeest that had a trace of dragon bloodline would naturally be afraid when facing a pure-blooded dragon species. Although this wasn't very obvious among magic-guiding fairies that didn't possess sentience, there was still some bloodline suppression. Dake held the next magic card in his hand and said decisively, "Young Green-Eyed Dragon, I'll leave that Dragon Wildebeest to you." Wow! The young green-eyed dragon let out a soft cry and stepped out of the eggshell. Then, after accumulating a little power, it suddenly charged toward the opposite side. However, it did not spread its wings and take off like Dake had expected. Instead, it began to run wildly on its short legs. Looking at the way it ran while opening its arms and barking, it was really excited. Dragon-horned horse, dragon-scaled armor, primitive charge. Dolong did not care about the actions of the young blue-eyed dragon and immediately gave the order to the primitive dragon wildebeest. Even though the young blue-eyed dragon was a 6-star magic guide spirit, it still chose to take the initiative to attack. This aura is not bad. Dake's eyes flashed as he summoned his second magic guide spirit. Right in front of the red team's platform, it was the flying and fighting type magic guide spirit, Hawkman. Hatcha! The Hawkman's eyes were filled with excitement. As soon as it appeared, it spun around in the air and stood in an extremely handsome manner. Dake glanced at it and instructed, "Attack the opponent's magic guide ball." In the case of summoning 2 magic guiding spirits first, splitting into 2 was a common tactic. With one of them dealing with the opponent's only magic guiding spirit and the other taking advantage of the gap to attack the magic guide ball, it could greatly delay the opponent's energy, making it difficult for the opponent to take care of the situation and even make mistakes. Each round of a magic guiding duel only lasted 30 seconds. Within these 30 seconds, the duelist had to take into account both the operation and thinking. Moreover, they also had to give commands and respond to the opponent's taunts. The decision-making time was actually very limited. Under such circumstances, it was very normal to make mistakes. And because the onlookers had a clearer view, there were occasionally some audience members who would seize this kind of mistake and say things like, "I can do it too." But in reality, they didn't even have a magic guiding card. Of course, with the popularity of simulated duels, those who boasted, "I can do it too," could no longer use, "I'm not a magus," as an excuse to decline. After hearing the order, the Hawkman's expression turned cold. It suddenly spread its wings and swooped down like an eagle. Its sharp eagle eyes stared at the blue magic guide ball. The situation on the field changed extremely quickly. When the Hawkman flew across the field, the young blue-eyed dragon had already fiercely collided with the primitive draconic wildebeest. Although the young blue-eyed dragon had an overwhelming advantage in terms of attack and defense, the primitive draconic wildebeest used 2 sure kill skills at once. Not only did it rely on dragon-scale rock armor to increase its defense and obtain the effect of damage reduction, it also used primitive charge to increase its attack power. The effect of primitive charge was very straightforward. The faster the speed of the charge, the higher the increase in attack power. The young blue-eyed dragon didn't expect this little draconic wildebeest to be able to cause damage to itself. It didn't have the upper hand in the first collision. But after the impact, it immediately faced up. Its 2 dragon claws clasped inwards and fiercely grabbed the horn of the primitive draconic wildebeest. Then, using this horn as the pressure point, it forcefully pressed the head of the primitive draconic wildebeest to the ground. "Ayo! The primitive draconic wildebeest let out a beast-like howl, but no matter how hard it struggled, it couldn't break free. On the blue team's platform, Doran nervously watched the primitive draconic wildebeest and the hawkman that swooped down. His lips moved quickly and he suddenly shouted, "In the name of Teddy Doran, I summon the dragon-winged bug." The next moment, a blazing white light burst out from the surface of the magic guiding card in his hand, illuminating the magic guide ball in the blue team's summoning area. Then, in this beam of white light, a magic guiding fairy with black dragon wings suddenly appeared. The magic guiding fairy, named the dragon-winged bug, was not an insect species. Its main body was a ring. On both sides of the ring, there were black dragon wings. On the dragon wings, there were 2 small claws. At the bottom of the ring, there were 2 thick and sturdy claws. When the dragon-winged bug was summoned, Doran hurriedly said, "Grab the ball and take off." A concise instruction. The dragon-winged bug immediately opened its claws and grabbed the blue team's magic guide ball. Then, with a flap of its wings, it instantly flew high. In just a few seconds, the hawkman swooped down and pounced on empty air. But after the hawkman missed, it somersaulted low in the air and instantly locked onto the dragon-winged bug's figure. It ferociously chased after it. Card name, Dragon-winged bug. Type, Fairy card. Level, Yen, Race. Fairy species, Attribute, Flight. Magic power, 1000, Attack, 500, Defense, 200. Ultimate skill, Parasitism, Wings of the Storm. When most magic guiding fairies did not have the ability to fight in the air, the Magister would often add 1 or more magic guiding cards to the deck to deal with the situation in the air. For example, Dake would add Flight Incantation to his deck. And Doran's countermeasure was this dragon-winged bug. The dragon-winged bug's flying speed was extremely fast, and it could parasitize other magic guiding fairies. At the critical moment, it could also use its ultimate skill, Wings of the Storm, to accelerate. Perhaps it was more useful than Dake's Flight Incantation. Of course, Dake was not envious. Although the dragon-winged bug's flying speed was very fast, the hawkman was not slow either. And Dake stretched out his hand and pointed. Magic power gathered at his fingertips and suddenly shot out. A line of magic power stuck to the magic guide ball's life barrier with extreme precision. Then he bent his finger and pulled it. The dragon-winged bug's ring suddenly let out a wind-like howl, and its speed plummeted. Hatcha! The hawkman's eyes suddenly lit up. It suddenly flapped its wings, and the feathers shot out from its wings turned into arrows, hitting the dragon-winged bug and the magic guide ball like rain. Although Feather Dance was not a damaging skill, it still disrupted the dragon-winged bug's wings. The hawkman flapped its wings and immediately chased after it like a shuttle. Not good. Doran's expression changed greatly, and he hurriedly shouted, "Wings of the storm, shake it off." Wings of wind condensed from airflow immediately appeared on the wings of the dragon-winged bug. Its flying speed suddenly increased, and it grabbed the magic conducting ball to avoid the arrows of more feathers. But the hawkman narrowed his eyes and adjusted his direction to continue chasing. Although he could not catch up for a while, he did not pull away either. Not bad. Dake raised the corner of his mouth and touched the deck. Battle stage had switched to the second round. The Magister's long-range control of the magic guide ball was limited, unless the quality and quantity of magic power were high enough to break through the limit. Dake could not do this for the time being. Therefore, in a magic duel, his ability to control the magic guide ball was not much different from the average player. After the dragon-winged bug used its ultimate skill, his drag lost its effect. But relying on this drag, the young green-eyed dragon smashed the dragon-scale rock armor of the primordial dragon-horned horse, and smashed its body into pieces. As the body of the primordial dragon-horned horse turned into magic light spots and scattered around, the young green-eyed dragon slowly raised its head in the light spots and looked at the dragon-winged bug that was fleeing in the air. Obviously, the collision with the dragon-winged horse aroused its desire to fight. When the round changed, the young green-eyed dragon flapped its wings backward, its feet left the ground, and flew into the sky. On the blue side's platform, Doran grabbed a magic guide card with an anxious expression. In fact, when the young green-eyed dragon attacked the primordial dragon-horned horse, it was not that he did not have a way to deal with it. It was just that the situation in the first round changed too frequently, so he did not find a chance to summon it. The magic guide card in his hand was called Dragon Binding Rope, and it could restrict the dragon species' performance to a certain extent. Once it was successfully trapped, it could at least prevent the primordial dragon-horned horse from being killed. And with the primordial dragon-horned horse and the dragon-winged bug on the scene, he could sacrifice and summon a 5-star magic guide spirit to slightly reverse the situation. Although it could only treat the symptoms and not the root cause, at least there was still hope. Unlike now, the acceleration of the dragon-winged bug could not last for too long. Once it stopped, it would definitely be caught by the horned eagle man and the young green-eyed dragon. This duel would be completely over. What should I do? He could only pin his hopes on a new magic guide card. Doran quickly drew his cards, but the 2 cards in his hand did not have a magic guide card that could resolve the situation. He anxiously looked at the situation in the field. Suddenly, his heart moved, and he glanced at the magic guide ball in the red side summoning area. Then, he immediately used the usual summoning skill. On the red side's platform, Dake immediately checked after drawing his cards. Moon God Soul Eye, Demon Fox Beast, Demon Fox Beast. Moon God Soul Eye was not suitable, and there was no need to use it in this situation. Dake's gaze naturally fell on the Demon Fox Beast. He did not hesitate and directly began to summon. Even if according to his inner calculations, at this time, there was no need to do anything else. He only needed to watch the 2 magic guide spirits that had already gone on the field complete the encirclement of the dragon-winged bug, and then enjoy the fruits of victory. But for the sake of caution, he still chose to summon. It was obvious that after a period of adjustment, he had found the right mentality. The difference was less than 2 seconds. The summoning light in both sides' summoning areas lit up at the same time. The Demon Fox Beast appeared once again. Its expression was stern as it stretched its slender limbs. It was obvious that it was ready to fight. But what appeared in the blue side summoning area was a small dinosaur that was less than a meter tall. It looked similar to a Tyrannosaurus, but the ratio of its head to its body was even more exaggerated, just like a doll. And on both sides of its big round head, there were antenna-like sharp horns that extended outwards. Meow! After this small dinosaur landed, it let out a kitten-like cry. Card name, Superbrain Viper. Type, Elf card. Level, *****. Race, Dragon. Attribute, Super/Dragon. Magic power, 1800. Attack, 200. Defense, 100. Ultimate skills, Super Explosion, Psychic Hammer, Cave Fall. The magic guide spirits in Dalanka's team were basically strong and close combat. This, Superbrain Viper, was very eye-catching among them. But it was an orange card. For most magisters, orange cards were the limit, and gold cards were wishful thinking. After Dalanka refined this precious orange card, he was so happy that he did not sleep well for a few days. Especially the effect of this orange card, it was very strong. Although the attack and defense of the Superbrain Viper was inferior, its magic power was a whole 200 points higher than a 3-star pinnacle, and its ultimate skills were very practical. Super Explosion was an area of effect attack, and it was accompanied by damage to the spiritual level. Psychic Hammer was a physical one-target ultimate skill, and it had a probability of stunning the opponent. As for the final, Cave Fall, it was the essence of this 3-star magic guide spirit card. Superbrain Viper, Cave Fall, the opponent's magic guide ball. Dolong shouted out loud almost at the same time he summoned it. There was an unconcealable impatience in his tone, but it meant that he was not done yet. Thinking, fighting, and seeking victory. Even if he was in a desperate situation, Dalanka was fighting for the last chance. The Superbrain semi-dragon suddenly opened its mouth, and a hole that looked like a cave appeared in its mouth. Just as the audience was confused, in the red summoning area, right below the red magic guide ball, a black cave fall quietly appeared. Whoosh! The black cave fall produced a strong suction force. The red magic guide ball was sucked into it without any warning. Delonka's move was beyond everyone's expectations. Dake was already cautious enough, but he still did not expect this move. The fox demon, standing in front of the red magic guide ball, only noticed it when the magic guide ball was sucked into the cave fall. But it was already too late. The red magic guide ball had already been sucked into the black cave fall. Then, it fell out of the white cave fall in front of the Super Brain Viper. In just the blink of an eye, the red magic guide ball had already fallen into the enemy's mouth. Dake's eyes were filled with shock. When his own magic guide ball was in danger, he chose to attack the opponent's magic guide ball. Besieging Wei to save Zhao was actually a basic tactic that Professor Cheong-si had repeatedly taught in dueling classes. Therefore, he was also on guard from the beginning. Not only did he summon the fox demon, but he was also ready to release his magic power at any time to pull the magic guide ball up into the sky. But Delonka's move was really impossible to guard against. Fox demon! Dake suddenly shouted. The demon fox beast had already charged out before he could even shout out. Its eyes were extremely sharp, and its legs were running very fast. The young green-eyed dragon and the hawkman, who were chasing the dragon-winged bug in the sky, also noticed the abnormality on the ground. But they were chasing the dragon-winged bug at full speed, and it was not easy to change direction at the last minute. On the blue side's platform, Delonka had already quickly issued an order. Superpower explosion, psychic hammer. Even if he could not completely shatter the red magic guide ball's life barrier, it was very likely that the opponent would stop chasing and return to rescue it. But just as he issued the order, the fox demon that he paid special attention to turned into a ray of light. Fox flash. Dake's order was extremely decisive. The fox flash of the fox demon was not a flash teleportation, but a speed-type sure-kill skill that could increase its movement speed explosively in a short period of time. It came with piercing, armor-piercing, and other effects, but it was an additional effect after the speed was increased to the limit. The 120-meter-long arena was slightly too long for the fox flash. But after running for more than 10 meters, it would suddenly be used. After the speed had increased to the limit, it would rely on inertia to continue to explode, and it could cross the entire arena at a relatively high speed. The fox demon burst out at full speed for the first time in the duel arena. It was really too fast. The Superbrain WYRM had just gathered its magic and was about to release Superpower Explosion, but the fox demon's figure had already closed in on it in an instant. Its whole body was burning with blue flames, and its right fist was swung out at a speed that was close to disappearing. Sure kill skill. 8 vine fists. Extreme movement speed. Extreme attack speed. The Superbrain WYRM was as weak as paper in front of the fox demon. Bang! Bang! 2 almost continuous punches rang out in a short period of time. The Superbrain WYRM's body had already exploded into magic light spots. Delonka's eyes instantly widened. The fox demon had appeared in the duel between Dake and White, and it had crushed the 6-star blood-burning orc with its 3-star body. But even though its transformation ability was enough to shock people, it had never displayed such speed before. Beep! The sudden sound of the whistle brought Delonka back to reality. He immediately felt the strange feeling when his magic guide sprite was returned to the magic guide card after being killed. It was only then that he raised his head and smiled bitterly. It turned out that the dragon-winged bug had been caught up by the Hawkman wrestling, and then it was blown up by the green-eyed baby dragon that flew over a little later. And when the blue magic guide ball fell into the hands of the 2 magic guide sprites, it was naturally broken in an instant. 4-0-0-0-0. It's over. Delonka took a deep breath. In this duel, he had already concentrated all his attention to deal with it, but in the end, the outcome was decided in less than 2 rounds. The only consolation was that he was not directly slaughtered without any resistance. If Dake Diming's reaction was a little slower, he might have been able to turn the tables and win in the desperate situation. The Superbrain WYRM's cave fall must have left a very deep impression on Dake. Thinking of this, Delonka looked at the contestants' platform opposite him. Dake happened to raise his head and revealed a smile. At this time, the audience outside the arena finally reacted. The commentator, Zach Wilson, began to loudly announce Dake Diming's second victory and replayed the thrilling scene several times. Some of the audience did not see what happened at all, so they quickly pricked up their ears to listen to his replays. Unfortunately, the Magic Guide projection did not have a playback function, otherwise, they would be able to watch the replay carefully. And until Wilson clearly replayed the game, the applause became louder and louder until it resounded throughout the entire arena. Yvette, who was in the front row of the audience, also clapped her hands vigorously along with the applause. Her right armrest had already been crushed into a fried dough twist. But at this time, Dake Diming, who was on the red team's platform, was not immersed in the joy of victory. He smiled at Delonka, then lowered his head and fell into deep thought. Whether it was White's blood-burning orc, or Delonka's superbrain WYRM, they all made him gradually vigilant. Killing moves like spatial transference were certainly difficult to guard against. But as the number of duels increased, these kinds of tricks that were impossible to guard against would also increase. If he was not careful, it was very likely that he would be defeated. And White and Delonka, who had always been straightforward, were like this, not to mention his next opponent, Saraswati. This brown-skinned student of the same grade had already caused him trouble during his first duel in the first years. Now, she would definitely become even more troublesome. Saraswati was the biological daughter of the Sage of the Ancients. All the knowledge of the Sage of the Ancients was just an open door to her, and she could read the books at any time. When she grew up, she might be the next Winnie. It's a little difficult. But for some reason, I'm a little excited. Dake's eyes lit up. He found that he was gradually regaining his enthusiasm for duels. Duels, interesting. Dake. Delonka's voice came from the opposite side. Dake raised his head again and asked, "What's wrong?" Delonka scratched his head and said helplessly, "I still lost." Dake smiled and said, "Didn't I say that I would wait for you forever? You have to believe in yourself." Delonka took a breath and nodded hard. Then he raised the deck that he had arranged and waved at Dake, saying, "Then I'll go down first." "Okay." Dake nodded. After Delonka left the stage, he began to pack up the magic cards. Before recalling the young blue-eyed dragon, he did not forget to turn it back into a dragon egg. After a while, the 3 magic spirits were all recalled into the magic cards. He put the cards in his hand into the deck and put them back into the card bag. 10 seconds later, a trace of fluctuation appeared beside him. The host, Senior Sister Judy, instantly teleported over. What a convenient sure-kill skill. Dake couldn't help but exclaim, "Don't." Senior Sister Judy raised her left hand and tapped the side of her nose with her index finger. "I know that you also have a magic spirit that can teleport." Of course, she was talking about the demon beast. Dake blinked and said, "Since it's the second interview today, let's make it short?" However, Senior Sister Judy smiled and said, "It's still 3 minutes." Dake sighed, "Okay." Senior Sister Judy picked up the microphone and said to the audience, "Twice in one day, this is the second time that we're interviewing Dake Diming on the winner's stage. I know that you still have a lot of questions. However, we can't force the contestants to answer questions that they don't want to answer. So, I'm going to boldly ask." Then, she turned to Dake and asked, "Can I ask some questions that have nothing to do with this competition?" Dark put on a polite and friendly smile and said, "For example, Senior Sister's real name or something like that?" Senior Sister Judy didn't care at all and said, "If you really want to pry into Senior Sister's secret, Senior Sister can give you a chance." Dake shook his head and said, "Since there's no equivalent content, then don't ask." Senior Sister Judy immediately looked surprised. "Judy is so worthless in your eyes?" Dake narrowed his eyes and nodded sincerely, "It's like this." Senior Sister Judy's expression froze and she glared at him with her back facing the audience. Then, she pretended to cry and said, "But, whatever. What do Diming contestants think about this duel?" Dake answered formally, Friendship first, competition second. Judy rolled her eyes and asked, "Then I'll change the question. What do you think about contestant Doran's strength?" "Your question is a bit sharp," Dake said directly in front of the audience, "but it's not like I can't say it. Doran is outstanding in the second year." Judy only asked a little, but of course, she didn't ask any further. She smiled and said, "It seems that contestant Doran's performance has gained your approval." Dake shook his head and said, "It can't be considered approval. After all, we're in the same year and we don't agree with each other. If senior sister doesn't have anything else to ask, can we leave now? I still have a match tonight." Judy had seen the match schedule and knew it very well. This was one of the topics she wanted to bring out. But she still asked curiously, "Who's your opponent?" Dake thought about it and felt that there was nothing to hide, so he said directly, "Saraswati from the Magic Institute." "Contestant Swati?" Judy said, "That's a strong opponent among strong opponents." Dake, "Aha." Senior Sister Judy turned to the audience again and announced, "It seems that we'll be able to see Dake Diming's performance again tonight. To be honest, I'm already a fan of his. What do you guys think?" The audience immediately echoed in agreement. Dake looked at the thousands of audience members and felt a bit emotional. Judy suddenly turned around and said, "Do you have anything to say to your fans?" Dake thought about it and said, "First of all, thank you for your support. Then, I'll see you in the next match." After that, he showed an elegant aristocratic smile to Senior Sister Judy. Judy naturally understood what he meant and immediately said, "Then let's continue to look forward to today's third interview. Now, we'll give Dimming some time to rest. Therefore, the interview of the winner of this match will end here. Next contestant, please get ready to go on stage." Dake finally walked down from the backstage. He realized that his initial plan was completely useless. He had too many duels planned for tonight. 3 duels, 3 times on stage. Even if the audience didn't know his name before, after these 3 duels, they would have a deep impression of him. Since he couldn't avoid it, he might as well go all the way. "If I can win the next duel, I'll do another advertisement for the club," he thought to himself and quickened his pace. After brushing past the 2 contestants of the next group, Doc entered the inner passage. Then he quickly caught up with Doran and returned to the seats in the ring with him. After the 2 of them sat down, Pittman patted Doran's shoulder with a look of regret. Doran could only smile bitterly and say, "I'm still far from it. I also put all my eggs in one basket. I didn't expect it to be so easily broken." Pittman said earnestly, "It's not that you're too weak, it's that he's too strong. We should understand that humans and gods can't be compared. Isn't that right, Dimming God?" Dake. The match at night was in full swing. It was easier to get excited in a dark environment. The audience was even more excited than in the daytime. The second-year newcomers were also affected by the atmosphere. Whether it was before or after the duel, they were all excited. Dake was replenishing the mana of his magic guide fairies while watching the match. In the match with Doran, he didn't use any Great Sin card, so he didn't have to worry about the cooldown. Only, Dragon Egg Transformation had entered a long cooldown. If the next match ended too quickly, he might not be able to use Dragon Egg Transformation to return the young cyanide dragon to its original state. But this possibility was relatively small. After all, Dragon Egg Transformation only had a cooldown of 1 hour. The preparation before and after every match, as well as the interview, would definitely take 10 minutes. After 9 matches, it would take at least 1.5 hours. And Dake's match with Sarah was in the 21st match. But speaking of Sarah, Dake suddenly noticed that he hadn't seen Saraswati for a while. Not only did he not see her in the cafeteria, but he also didn't see her in the audience. Heidi, who was supposed to be inseparable from him, was now sitting alone. So, where did Sarah go? Dake couldn't help but wonder. More than an hour passed in the blink of an eye. The 7th match of the evening, which was also the 17th match of the day. The second-year Night Academy's top student, Ai Ma Métis, finally appeared. And her opponent was White Gouda, who appeared for the second time. White's morale was boosted after losing to Dake, and he was determined to win. In his duel with AI Ma, he did indeed show a lot of things. For example, during the duel exam at the end of the school year, he had once summoned the giant bloodworm. He had also used the bloodworm that had exploded into a sacrificial offering to specially summon the 5-star magical elf, Bloodseeker. This was originally his trump card to get a good result in the duel exam, but because he met Dake, he didn't even have the chance to use it and was completely defeated. But in his duel with AI Ma, he finally summoned it and relied on Blood Demon and Taboo Love to gain an advantage. However, AI Ma fought steadily and wasn't in a hurry at all. She slowly recovered from the disadvantage and suppressed White with a terrifying steadiness, finally turning the tables and winning. Then the audience gave the two contestants the warmest applause. Emma Métis, a student of the Night Academy, who was even more famous than the Mage Academy, had finally entered the public eye. During AI Ma's interview, Dake noticed that Sarah returned to her seat in the ring and sat next to Heidi. Since his opponent was here, Dake didn't pay much attention. After that, 2 more matches were over. His branch card vibrated. Opening the branch card, it was indeed a reminder from the duel club. Thus, he said goodbye to Doran and Pitten and stood up. Win. Doran waved his fist at him. I'll do my best. Dake smiled and strode away. Following closely behind, Saraswati left the audience with a relaxed look. Not long after, the two of them entered the contestant tunnel one after the other. Hey, Dake, I heard you already won 2 matches? Sarah greeted from a distance. Dake slowed down and waited for her to catch up. Yeah, you weren't in the first match? Nope. Sarah raised her index finger and shook it as she giggled. Dake said, That's a pity. There were a few interesting matches today. Sarah blinked. Including your 2 duels? Dake said, I don't know. After all, I'm not an audience member. Maybe the audience won't think it's exciting enough because it's too short. It's okay. Sarah walked side by side with him and raised her head slightly. The audience is always more willing to remember the last match. As long as the match between you and me is exciting enough, it's fine. Her tone was relaxed and her expression was full of confidence. 9,000 plus words, 4,000 guaranteed, 5,000 plus chapters. 5/. The reward is about 50 chapters so far. It's expected. Finally, I'll continue to ask for votes and props from the cute babies. Good night. Chapter 603. At this time, the curtain of the night was already dark, and the light of the entire open-air duel arena was gathered on the dueling stage, illuminating it with a snow-white glow. The 20th duel of the day had already begun. The 2 sides were students from the Night Academy and the Noble Academy. The 2 students stood on opposite sides of the stage, and their words were sharp even before the duel began. When the duel began, they were even more at odds with each other, shouting incessantly. Dake and Sarah went straight to the exit of the contestants' tunnel, watching while waiting for the end of the duel between the 2 second-year students. Sarah glanced sideways and stole a glance at Dake's face. She couldn't help but think of the duels in the first year. Duels were indeed one of the most effective ways to understand a person. The first sentence she had spoken to Dake was during their first duel. After that, she couldn't help but observe this boy in the same year. Before she entered the Shang Malian Academy, she had always thought that there was no boy who could attract her so much. However, Dake Dimming had entered her field of vision just like that. Website https://m Vipkanchu. VIP. Unlike her carefree appearance, Sarah was very meticulous and had a strong competitive spirit. She could be said to be the same type of person as AI Ma, but she was easier to get along with in terms of personality. In other words, she had a higher EQ. As the daughter of the Sage of the Ancients, Sarah was proud of her father and was confident in her knowledge that surpassed that of her peers. She was used to standing in the center of the crowd, receiving everyone's praise, and using this as her motivation to move forward. However, she was now standing at the bottom of the stairs, in a position to catch up. However, in this world, no one's position was eternal. She used to stand at the top of the stairs, and now she was standing at the bottom of the stairs. In the future, she would return to the top of the stairs. Beep, the referee's whistle sounded, and the winner of the 20th duel was finally decided. The staff at the entrance hurriedly reminded the two of them to get ready. Dake nodded and called Sarah, "It's our turn." Sarah stretched her arms, stood up from her half-leaning posture, and followed Dake's footsteps. Sarah's figure was slender, and her height was close to Dake's. At the age of 13, she was already 1.65 meters tall. Dake was already 1.69 meters tall. Compared to this time last year, he had grown about 10 centimeters and was still growing rapidly. Perhaps in another year, he would be able to catch up to Senior Pan Duola. Sarah had wheat-colored skin, which was rare in the kingdom. She had a high nose bridge and slightly plump lips. The corners of her eyes were upturned like phoenix eyes, making her look very exquisite. Her legs were straight and slender, very eye-catching, but she also had a lean body that was not uncommon for girls her age. As the two contestants walked out of the tunnel one after the other, the spectators nearby immediately started shouting. Sarah, like Anna and Luo C, frequently appeared in the newcomer competition. Of course, she spent most of her time testing her tactics or experimenting with the newly refined magic cards. There were many hidden ways to earn credits in the Shang Malian Academy, and Sarah was not worried about credits. By the time the interview of the winner of the 20th round was finally over, the two contestants walked out of the arena. They waited until that student had stood, and then walked back to back toward the contestant platforms on either side. Dake was on the red side, and Sarah was on the blue side. Walking onto the contestant platform for the third time that day, Dake habitually wanted to wave to Yvette, but as soon as he raised his hand, the crowd on the other side of the arena immediately raised their hands and waved them like swaying seaweed. He felt awkward inside, but on the surface, he still maintained his elegant appearance. He simply waved at the audience, and then slowly let go of his hand. To appear on stage 3 times in one day, to say nothing of other things, he had cultivated a lot of fans. "Looks like you're quite popular." Sarah's voice, full of laughter, came from the contestant platform across from him. Dake reached out to activate the card table, and responded, "The audience always chooses to support the people they want to support. Perhaps I'm just what some of them want." Sarah said in surprise, "So you care about popularity, too? I always thought you didn't care about this at all." Dake couldn't help but smile. "Although I don't know what you think of me, of course I want more people to support me." Sarah rolled her eyes, and said, "Then if I win, will your fans change their allegiance?" Dake laughed. "That depends on your ability." Sarah raised her eyebrows, and said, "Let's see." Dake said, "Let's wait." After the two finished talking, they immediately took out the cards they prepared in advance, and then put them in the card slots. When the card table detected that both contestants had put in their cards, the words, "Preparation Stage," appeared in the box above the card table. Then the automatic shuffling system was activated. Walala! The sound of the automatic shuffling was brisk and rhythmic. Whether it was the contestants in the arena or the audience outside, they all calmed down with the sound of the shuffling. When the shuffling was complete, the preparation stage would enter the second stage of the 30-second countdown. This duel would begin immediately. It seems like everyone here is looking forward to this duel just like me. Commentator Zach Wilson's voice sounded faintly. As we can see, the contestant on the red platform is contestant Dark Diamond, who is already on the stage for the 3rd time. In his first 2 duels today, he ended them within 3 rounds. And on the blue platform is contestant Saraswati, who is on the stage for the first time today. As the top student of the 2nd grade, Saraswati has the same surname as the famous Sage of the Ancients. That's right, she is the successor of the Sage of the Ancients. Hearing this, I think everyone here will think of one person. She is now a 4th grade student of the Magic Academy, Winnie Scatty. Contestant Sarah and contestant Winnie have similar backgrounds and experiences. Even the pronunciation of their surnames is very similar. I can't help but sigh, fate is always so coincidental. But can contestant Sarah become a powerful duelist like Frigid Winter's daughter? Let's wait and see. Beep. The referee's whistle sounded at the right time. Behind the preparation stage, a 30s countdown appeared. Whether it was Dake on the red side or Sarah on the blue side, they both showed a slightly serious expression at this moment. The expressions of both sides were magnified by the projection and displayed in front of the live audience. As the 5 magic cards were drawn, the expressions of both sides changed again. Saraswati seemed to have drawn a very ideal magic card. Her eyebrows were raised. Dake Diming's side was not weak either. He fanned out the 5 magic cards and looked carefully. Dream Demon, Curse Cage, Little Demon, Fairy Ibu, Underworld Soul Ring, Bliss 3 Moon. First is the Dream Demon. Together with the controllable Bliss 3 Moon, it can summon a Dream Demon very quickly. Next is the Curse Cage, Little Demon. If Bliss 3 Moon is used, it can also evolve into a Heidi Road Beast. And if a normal sacrificial summoning spell is used, it can also summon Fairy Ibu. Finally, there's the Underworld Soul Ring. I wonder how Sarah will deal with this. As he pondered, Dake raised his head slightly and saw Sarah's gaze on him. It was as sharp as a blade. Looks like she's very confident. Dake pointed his finger at the Dream Demon. Sarah was an opponent that he had to take seriously when they were in first year. Now that she was in second year, she was naturally strong. And unlike White and Doran, Sarah was always able to bring him endless surprises. Dake could not help but have more expectations. Drip. As if a drop of water had dripped into the heart, the ripples immediately spread out. Preparation stage, battle stage. The 30s countdown of the first round began. Both sides instantly focused and began to cast their normal summoning spells at an extremely fast speed. Even White had already compressed the casting time of his normal summoning spell to less than 4 seconds, let alone Saraswati, who was learning faster than him. There was almost no difference in the summoning speed of both sides. In both summoning zones, the light of summoning lit up at almost the same time. After losing his usual advantage in summoning speed, how was Dake Diming going to gain a new advantage? The professor of the second-year dueling class, Pawa Cheong-si, could not help but think. In the name of Dake Diming, I summon Dream Demon. In the name of Saraswati, I summon Skeletal Beauty Snake. At the same time, both sides summoned their spirit-type magic spirits at the same time. In the red team's summoning zone, Dake summoned a petite and cute nightmare. Although it was a specter, it was a dark green magic spirit that was as cute as a doll. But the red string of beads hanging around the neck of the Dream Demon emitted a frightening aura. In the blue team's summoning zone, Sarah summoned a skeletal beauty snake that looked terrified. The giant snake that appeared with the black fog was thick and long. It was an undying species. The skin on its head cracked open, revealing its pale white bones. 3 inches below the skin on its neck, there was not even a trace of flesh. The pale white bones drilled out of the flesh on its neck and extended all the way to the tip of its tail. The skeletal beauty snake had a skin fold on its neck that was shaped like a cobra. The pattern on the skin fold was like the face of a beauty with heavy makeup, emitting a seductive and horrifying aura. Card name, Skeletal Beauty Snake. Type, Elf card. Level, ****. Race, Undying Species. Attribute, Spirit type. Magic power, 1200. Attack, 1500. Defense, 900. Ultimate skill, Ghostly Entanglement. This was not the first time Dake had seen Sarah's Skeletal Beauty Snake, so he knew how troublesome it was. Thus, he immediately ordered the Dream Demon to guard in front of the magic ball and not move. 3 seconds later, Dake began to summon Bliss 3 Moon. However, Sarah commanded loudly at the moment of summoning Skeletal Beauty Snake, Ghostly Entanglement. The Skeletal Beauty Snake, that emitted a terrifying aura, suddenly let out a sharp hiss, dragging its pale white tail and flying out. Although it was a spirit type, it had a physical body. The bone tail whipped the ground, making a cracking sound. However, its speed was unexpectedly fast. Fortunately, the arena for the official duel was a full 120 meters. When the skeletal beauty snake rushed over half of the arena, Dake had already completed the summoning. The light of Bliss 3, Moon, sprinkled down like rain, bathing the dream demon in it. As if it felt the pressure from the skeletal beauty snake, the dream demon did not laugh, which was rare. Instead, it crazily absorbed the power of bliss. Little demon, heart suit, the badge that symbolized bliss, bloomed between its eyebrows. The pink light kept merging into its body. The dream demon's body grew rapidly. From the original child's body, in a blink of an eye, it transformed into a young lady's body. In a blink of an eye, it had completed a life-form transformation. The dream demon had already turned into a deep purple color. Its overall appearance was like a magical girl wearing a pointed hat. The beads that once hung on its neck had transformed into 3 red gems embedded on its body, emitting an even more astonishing aura. Card name, Dream Demon. Type, Sprite card. Level, Race, Undying Species. Attribute, Spirit type. Magic power, 2700. Attack, 2500. Defense, 1600. Killing skills, Gem of Terror, Pain Sharing, Same Life, Nightmare Realm. However, the skeletal beauty snake did not fear this 5-star enchanted sprite in the slightest. In a blink of an eye, the skeletal beauty snake had already rushed over half of the arena, entering the red half. When it neared the dream demon, the beauty with heavy makeup on its neck suddenly revealed an extremely sinister smile. In the next moment, the beauty with heavy makeup actually drilled out from the skin. From its face to its body, it was as if it broke out from the skeletal beauty snake's body. The beauty laughed silently, rushing towards the dream demon, like a specter. Ghostly Forest. Saraswati's voice followed closely behind. A dark green light shot out from the second enchanted card in her hand like an arrow, accurately shooting into the skeletal beauty snake's body. The skeletal beauty snake's body suddenly stiffened for a moment, then a dark green fog exploded from inside out, surrounding its entire body in the blink of an eye. The beauty's soul that drilled out from its body suddenly seemed to be wearing a dark green cheongsam, becoming more condensed and real. Who? The beauty's soul penetrated through the dream demon's body. Me. The dream demon suddenly let out a cry, feeling a chill seeping in from the outside. It was as if its body was in an extremely cold winter, and its entire body was frozen stiff. The skeletal beauty snake's beauty's soul took advantage of the time when the dream demon had just evolved and repeatedly penetrated its body several times. Every time it penetrated the dream demon's body, the feeling of being frozen stacked up. After a few times, the dream demon's body was completely stiff, not moving at all. Enchanted Ball. Sarah's next command was immediately sent out. The skeletal beauty snake's body didn't care about the dream demon at all, shrinking its body and shooting towards the red enchanted ball. Sarah's goal was extremely clear, which was to use the skeletal beauty snake's power to take a big bite out of Dake's HP. However, Dake already knew her attack pattern, so he couldn't let her succeed. Light of Fear. Following Dake's command, the frozen dream demon suddenly opened its eyes wide. From the brim of its hat, a pink light shone out from its eyes. The 3 red jewels of fear on its chest suddenly released a magical light that shone like jewels. The fear it accumulated every night was converted into magical power and stored within. Now that it was released in an instant, it caused the beauty's soul that was illuminated by the magical light to melt like snow. Good thing it evolved in time. If it was the dream demon, I'm afraid even its thoughts would be frozen. Dake rejoiced as he watched the skeletal beauty snake's body forcefully resist the magical light and continue to crash into the enchanted ball. Then, he bent his finger, and the enchanted ball shot upwards as if it was loaded with a spring. Immediately after, the dream demon, that gradually regained its ability to move, opened its eyes wide, and used telekinesis to firmly clamp down on the skeletal beauty snake's body. The situation on the field turned around extremely quickly. Sarah, who was on the blue team's platform, didn't stop summoning while giving orders to the skeletal beauty snake. Her third summon had impressively been completed. In the blue team summoning area, a mummy girl wrapped in snow-white bandages knelt down on one knee, her magic staff pointed to the ground as she materialized. Dake had similarly seen this 3-star enchanted sprite before. Card name, Living Mummy. Type, Sprite card. Level, *****. Race, Undying Species. Attribute, Dark. MP, 1200. Attack, 1000. Defense, 1000. Killing move, Darkness Rebirth. It had a crown on its head and a magic staff in its hand. Its bandages were loose, revealing its skin. Its exposed skin was brimming with vitality, and half of its face was exquisite and smooth. The living mummy that possesses the killing move, Darkness Rebirth. Dake's heart was filled with warning signs. He felt a pressure he hadn't felt in a long time in this duel. Instead, he curled his lips into a smile, and before the round changed, he issued an order. Dream Demon, Nightmare Realm. Demonic Mimi. The Dream Demon solemnly replied. A thick purple fog erupted from its body, spreading out like smoke. The lower half of the skeletal beauty snake's body was submerged in the thick fog. Battle Stage 2. 30s. Both contestants drew their cards at the same time. First Dragon's Egg, Bliss 3. Dake added the 2 enchanted cards into his hand, but he wasn't that excited. The Dream Demon, on the ground, didn't completely spread out the Nightmare Realm. Although the purple fog was only a special effect of the Nightmare Realm, it still indicated the range of the Nightmare Realm. It only covered a small half of the arena. Because the Nightmare Realm's space distortion effect was constant, and the Dream Demon could only be released but not retracted, if it completely spread out at once, it would instead cause trouble for Dake. Especially for Sarah's Mummy series, they were basically mummies with extremely slow basic movement speed. Thus, they would instead benefit from the Nightmare Realm. After spreading out the Nightmare Realm, the Dream Demon's figure flashed. It gathered its claws, and viciously clawed at the crazily struggling skeletal beauty snake. The skeletal beauty snake, that had been infused with the Sen Luo ghost energy, had already broken through the first tier. But with only its original body left, it definitely wasn't a match for the Dream Demon. Dake only glanced at it, and then began to cast his usual summoning technique. In the name of Dake Dimeng, I summoned the first dragon's egg. When the enormous dragon egg appeared from the purple fog, the audience that had a deep impression of it immediately cheered. White and Doran on the ring-shaped belt both clenched their fists tightly. But Saraswati on the blue platform wasn't the slightest bit nervous. She bent her finger, and an enchanted card floated in the air. From the surface of this enchanted card, a pitch-black ray shot out. Before the cyanide whelp hatched, it had already shot into the dragon egg. That black ray twisted into a spiral shape, but it didn't break through the dragon egg's defenses. Instead, it directly penetrated inside, and frantically absorbed the energy within. Dake's pupils contracted, once again feeling the barrenness of knowledge. For a moment, he was actually unable to recall what Sarah's curse enchanted card was. It's the Magic Absorption Curse. But Sarah suddenly laughed, and blurted it out. The Magic Absorption Curse, also known as the Magic Absorption Curse, was a curse that human magicians developed with great difficulty to resolve their lack of magic. But the actual usage of this curse wasn't very good. Although it was able to absorb magic from other magicians, but in the process of instilling magic, there was a problem. The efficiency was only 1/10. 1/10 efficiency. This caused the Magic Absorption Curse to become a chicken rib among chicken ribs. On the other hand, the demons were born with a huge amount of magic. Relying on the Magic Absorption Curse couldn't completely drain their magic, and the other party wouldn't just stand there and let you absorb it. Over time, the Devil Drawing Curse was rarely mentioned by people. But when Sarah used it in a magic duel, it was unexpectedly useful. The Magic Absorption Curse was simply the nemesis of the Enchanted Fairies. Although the Enchanted Fairies from the second tier onwards had a partial immunity to this type of curse, the Enchanted Fairies from the first tier were almost unable to resist. The students in the ring-shaped belt looked at the appearance of this enchanted card, and they were all deep in thought. But Dake frowned. The magic absorption curse had limited effect on the 5-star dream demon, but it just happened to interrupt the primordial dragon egg from hatching. But Sarah clearly didn't watch his duel with Doran. Could it be that she came up with this strategy just based on the duel assessment at the end of the year? Or was it an improvisation? Now wasn't the time to think about these reasons. Dake forcibly stopped his train of thought, and didn't want to waste time on this point. Then he continued to summon on the spot. In the name of Dake Dim-eng, I summon the spell cage, little devil beast. Since Dake had already moved the magic ball to the height of the contestant's platform, the little devil beast was directly summoned a little in front of the magic ball. The summoned little devil beast wasn't excited. It probably didn't expect that it would have a chance to appear on stage. After it was summoned, it just flapped its wings and maintained its flight. And on the opposite side, Sarah ensured that the magic absorption curse was working normally, and she was also summoning the next enchanted fairy. Her situation on the battlefield was actually not good. The strengthened skeleton beauty snake wasn't a match for the dream demon, and it wouldn't last long before it was torn apart. Even if she relied on the living mummy's dark rebirth to temporarily revive it, no, dark rebirth was a sure kill skill that could only revive a dark enchanted fairy that wasn't higher than the user's level for 3 minutes, within 3 minutes of death. And the skeleton beauty snake was of the ghost element, not the dark element. In this aspect, Dake made a mistake in understanding. This meant that once the skeleton beauty snake was destroyed, Sarah would have no combat power in the field. Therefore, she had to take measures to make up for it. When she was in her first year, she didn't have a high-star enchanted fairy, which was her shortcoming. But that was already the past. In the name of Saraswati, I summoned the Dead Soul Jar. A magic enchanted fairy that looked like a black jar appeared beside the blue magic ball. Looking down from the top, one could see 3 black spheres wandering in the jar. Conceptually, they were the souls of the dead that condensed into the Dead Soul Sphere. The 3 Dead Soul Orbs were 3 1-star offerings. Together with the 3-star living mummy, one could summon a 6-star enchanted fairy at most. But Sarah didn't do that. The living mummy was very important in her tactical system, and it couldn't be used as a pure offering. Therefore, after summoning the Dead Soul Jar, she began to summon the second spell card, Life's Prohibition. It was a spell that people without talent couldn't even touch. But before Sarah could successfully summon the Life's Prohibition, Dake took the initiative to summon the Underworld Soul Ring. In the name of Dake Dim-eng, I summon the Underworld Soul Ring. Dake bent his finger, and a thick necklace that was 2 fingers wide appeared in front of the little demon beast. Of course, it wasn't for the little demon beast to wear. Dark looked at the living mummy who was still guarding the blue magic conducting ball and said softly, "Don't worry, the living mummy. Go." The soul necklace disappeared in an instant. When it reappeared, it was on the mummy girl's delicate neck. The necklace that came from the underworld, a soul ring that could bind a first-tier enchanted fairy to one side and offer it as an offering. The living mummy felt the binding on its neck and instinctively reached out to grab it and pull it out. But this underworld soul ring, that was refined with grey fire, had a very strong binding power against first-tier enchanted fairies. The living mummy let out a silent scream. It was actually caught by the underworld soul ring, and was quickly dragged toward the red side. Sarah's Life's Prohibition was only successfully summoned at this time. It was only a beat slower. The dark wall stretched across the blue side's summoning area. 7,000 plus words, 4,000 guaranteed, 3,000 plus 1. 5 chapters. After some calculations, the reward is about 70 chapters. I'll try to pay it back in 2 months. After I wake up, I'll try to make up for the 4,000 words that I missed in the past 2 days. Storm cry. There are still 9 days until the reward ends. Requesting monthly votes. Chapter 604. This black wall that spanned across the arena emitted an extremely dense aura of death. It caused the professors and upperclassmen to reveal shocked expressions. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, who would have thought that this was a curse released by a second-year student? Even Winnie Scardy lowered her head and asked the people beside her in shock. When she found out that Sarah had joined the Archaeology Society and not the Literature Society, she couldn't help but sigh. However, the timing of life's prohibition was a bit too slow. After the living mummy was forcefully taken away by the underworld soul ring, Dake Dimming on the red team's platform quickly used the sacrificial summoning technique. He was already very familiar with the sacrificial summoning technique. Although he still hadn't reached the 3-second limit, he was very close. Living Mummy was 3 stars. Curse Cage, Little Devil Beast, was 1 star. Using Living Mummy and Curse Cage, Little Devil Beast as sacrifices, sacrificial summoning, Fairy Ibu. Feeling that its body was about to turn into light, Little Devil Beast's face revealed a helpless expression of, as expected. Then, it followed the living mummy, and became a sacrifice to summon Fairy Ibu. When the 3 rays of light gathered together and drew a complicated sacrificial summoning array in the air, Sarah on the blue team's platform couldn't help but frown. It's actually a curse that can forcefully turn the opponent's magic fairy into a sacrifice? The discussion outside the arena instantly increased. The commentator, Zach Wilson, let out an incredulous cry. Under everyone's gazes, the extremely cute pink magic fairy finally jumped out of the sacrificial summoning array. Fairy Ibu swayed its 2 ribbons and looked up at the night sky as it landed. A full moon hung high in the pitch-black night sky, and bright moonlight gently sprinkled down. It inhaled slightly, and bits of moonlight gathered, making it look like a fairy dust. It became even more charming and cute. Demonic Mimi, the dream demon, dealt the final blow to the skeletal beauty snake, completely killing this troublesome, skeletal beauty snake. Without the living mummy on the stage, the skeletal beauty snake had no hope of returning. However, in the death soul jar hidden behind the life's prohibition, there was a death soul ball that was swimming silently. In the red team summoning area, Fairy Ibu, who had been conveniently summoned, bathed in moonlight and emitted charm. The second round was about to end. Both sides only had 1 card left in their hands. It could be said that they had used up all their moves. However, Dake still had 2 second-tier magic fairy in perfect condition. In Sarah's field, there was only the lonely jar of dead souls, except for the life's exclusion, which was of unknown use. At first glance, Dark Diamond had the advantage. However, it wasn't like Sarah had no room for a counterattack. At this moment, the second round. Tick. Battle Stage 3, 30s. Both of their sis with the 2 new magic cards in hand, Saraswati, who was frowning because the living mummy was taken away, finally relaxed her frown. What she needed the most now was a magic elf that could stand on the battlefield. If this magic fairy had the ability to restrict the Dream Demon, that would be even better. The Dream Demon was an undying species. It could pass through the life's prohibition without any hindrance. It was the most threatening existence. 3 seconds, slightly more than that. In the blue team's summoning area, the light of summoning rapidly lit up. On the red team's platform, Dake also added 2 cards into his hand. Moon Pendant, Demon Fox. In addition to the remaining Bliss 3, he could use many battle tactics. But before summoning, he first gave the order to attack. After destroying the skeletal beauty snake, the Dream Demon gradually became excited. It immediately controlled the Nightmare Realm to expand. As for itself, it disappeared without a trace in front of everyone. Unable to freely traverse through the Nightmare Realm, the Fairy Ibu could only slowly advance towards the middle. Dake glanced at it and started summoning the Moon Pendant. At this moment, in the blue team summoning area, Sarah's magic fairy gradually appeared. It was a familiar black cat, but it wasn't the 2-star Sphinx cat. Although this black cat was of the same breed as the Sphinx cat, it didn't have a single strand of hair on its body. Its eyes were golden, its skin was pitch black, its ears were huge and its tail was slender. However, it had 2 tails. At first glance, it looked like a mystical animal, Nikomata, but it wasn't. but its strange appearance made Dake feel a sense of alarm. He didn't doubt that this two-tailed black cat had a strange killing technique similar to the Sphinx cat. It could even surpass the class gap and be effective against the Dream Demon. The Dream Demon wasn't afraid of a strong attack. No matter how strong the opponent was, it would at most be a one-for-one exchange. But if the opponent used a purely controlling method, then the Dream Demon wouldn't be able to display its advantage. Thus, after Dake finished summoning the moon pendant, he immediately warned, "Don't be careless." As his voice fell, the figure of the Dream Demon appeared from the thick purple fog and suddenly pounced towards the Life's Prohibition. Pooh! But the illusion created by the Dream Demon instantly collapsed when it touched the black wall. On the other side of the Life's Prohibition, the two-tailed cat suddenly crouched down in a direction and let out a muffled roar. The Dream Demon's true body slowly appeared. It curiously looked at the two-tailed cat and wondered how this little cat could see it. Although cats were creatures with strong spiritual senses, it's useless. My dead spirit cat Nakomata has spiritual eyes that can see through ghosts and ghosts. Sarah's voice faintly sounded, but it was obvious that she was talking to the Dream Demon. Talking to the magic fairy? In the eyes of the audience, this was completely baffling. But the teachers and students of the Shang Malian Academy didn't feel anything. Sarah was very sure that the Dream Demon could understand. Then, the speech technique that was useless against normal magic fairies would be useful against the Dream Demon. As expected, the Dream Demon didn't hide its figure anymore. Instead, after the thick purple fog spread over, it personally stretched out its tentacles to test the Life's Prohibition. Then, it squeezed out its tentacles from its body and passed through the Life's Prohibition without any obstruction. In the next moment, its entire body passed through, but when it looked left and right, it realized that the purple fog didn't follow it. It immediately remembered Dake's "Don't be careless," and immediately retreated. The Nightmare Realm couldn't pass through the Life's Prohibition. But the Dream Demon could. On the red team's platform, Dake suddenly caught a glimmer of light. This Life's Prohibition, could it be an arena skill? His gaze couldn't pass through the black wall, so he couldn't see the dead spirit pot and dead spirit cat Nakomata. Since the Dream Demon could pass through as it wished, he didn't hesitate anymore. "Dream Demon, go in." After issuing the command, he rapidly moved his lips and began to summon the Demon Fox. "In the name of Dake Dimeng, I summon the Demon Fox." When the Demon Fox appeared in the red team's summoning area, the Dream Demon had already received the command and once again charged into the Life's Prohibition. Then, in a flash, there was no sound. On the blue team's platform, Sarah's smile gradually widened, finally brimming with a smile. "Next, what will you do?" She knocked on the card table, softly muttering. Dake clearly felt that his connection with the Dream Demon hadn't been severed, and the Dream Demon's condition was almost perfect. Then it can only be controlled, like being stepped on by the Shadow Stomp. Dake slightly muttered, then said, "Fairy Ibu, you come." "Me." Having already passed through the thick purple fog and arrived at the blue team's platform, Fairy Ibu raised her head and lightly called out, suddenly increasing her speed. Her base speed was slightly faster than the Dream Demon's. In the Nightmare Realm, her speed was slightly reduced, but not to an excessive extent. When she arrived in front of the Life's Prohibition, the Demon Fox was already on standby under Dake's command. Fairy Ibu raised her claws and forcefully pressed down, but was blocked outside as if she had touched a wall. Dake's brain was working furiously. Immediately following, he ordered, "Bewitching Voice." The Life's Prohibition was only a wall. It couldn't block a killing move that used sound as a medium. Hence, in a situation where he couldn't determine the strength of the Life's Prohibition, Bewitching Voice was more useful than Moon Force. Moreover, Fairy Ibu was wearing the Moon Pendant. Under the effect of the Moon Pendant's killing move, Beauty of the Moon, the success rate of Bewitching Voice would increase. Moreover, it was currently under the moonlight, so the effects of Beauty under the Moon would be doubled. The only thing he needed to consider was whether the two-tailed black cat had a gender, and whether it was a male or a female. But no matter what, it would be quick to test it out. Dake stared intently at the field below. Fairy Ibu had already raised her head, a gentle light flowing in her eyes as if water was about to drip out. Heartsuit, heartsuit. Then she lightly opened her lips and began to sing the bewitching song. Bewitching Voice's killing move was activated. The surface of the Life's Prohibition began to ripple, and the bewitching body's bewitching effect was transformed into the form of sound and expanded. Dake still couldn't see the scene on the other side of the black wall. However, Dead Spirit Nakomata and Fairy Ibu were of similar species, at least in terms of aesthetics. There was no difference. As long as Dead Spirit Nakomata was a male, even if it was a female, it would be difficult to remain indifferent. And once Dead Spirit Nakomata was bewitched, the Dream Demon would be able to take the opportunity to escape. Tick. Battle Stage 4. 30s. The third round passed quickly. Both sides didn't engage in any substantial exchanges, and the situation in the field was to push forward. However, when the sound of the switch sounded, both of them subconsciously drew their cards, and didn't pay attention to it. This was because the changes in the field were at a critical moment. Blue Team Summoning Area. Just as the Dream Demon passed through Life's Prohibition, it was stared at by Dead Spirit Nakomata's golden eyes, causing its body to be covered in a layer of golden light. That layer of light had the effect of bewitching Hoop, and it was extremely effective against undying species. Card name, Dead Spirit Nakomata. Type, Elf card. Level, Race, Undying species. Attribute, Dark, Magic. 1500. Attack, 1300. Defense, 300. Killing moves, Spirit Break Eyes, Undead Imprisonment, Second Tail's Life. Dead Spirit Nakomata, as the name suggested, was an undying species that transformed from a cat after it died. Because it grew a second tail during the transformation process, it became Nakomata. Nakomata was a two-tailed cat, and compared to a nine-tailed cat, it only had a second life. Therefore, Dead Spirit Nakomata had 2 lives. By the way, the Dead Spirit Nakomata that Sarah had created was conceptually a sphinx that had transformed after it died. Its attack was not bad, but its defense was very low. Its high magic meant that it was a magic elf that leaned towards skills. Moreover, it was an orange card. Among the 3 killing moves, Spirit Break Eyes could see through spirits and ghosts, and could occasionally see through illusions. It was a very practical killing move. As for Undead Imprisonment, it was a control skill that had an effect on the undying species and the spectre type. If the target that needed to be imprisoned was a spirit-type undying species, then the effect would be even more significant. Undead Imprisonment and Life's Prohibition were a perfect match. Even the Dream Demon was completely imprisoned in front of it. However, this cat was conceptually a male. Therefore, when Bewitching Voice was heard, the heartsuit symbol appeared in Dead Spirit Nakomata's golden eyes. When it used Undead Imprisonment, it had to stare at the other party with its eyes and could not move away. This was similar to the Sphinx's Shadow Stomp. Once it moved away, the imprisonment effect would be removed. Faced with Fairy Ivan's bewitching voice, Dead Spirit Nakomata did not have any ability to resist and immediately turned towards the direction of the voice. Then, the Dream Demon immediately broke free from the imprisonment. Awoo! It angrily opened its hands and pounced towards Dead Spirit Nakomata. How could a 3-star Dead Spirit Nakomata, with only 300 points of defense, block the attack of a 5-star magic elf? In the blink of an eye, Dead Spirit Nakomata was killed. However, it did not die completely. Life of the Second Tail. Activate. At the same time, there was another Dead Spirit Orb in the Dead Spirit Urn. This 3-star magic elf was one of Sarah's trump cards. Although it looked like a fragile urn, it actually had a strong defense that exceeded the 3-star limit, and was only slightly inferior to Kettle. Card name, Dead Spirit Urn. Type, Elf card. Level, *****. Race, Undying species. Attribute, Ghost type. Magic power, 1000. Attack, 0. Defense, 2000. Ultimate skill, Spirit in the Urn, Death Aura Explosion. 1000 points of magic power, 0 points of attack, and 2000 points of defense. The Dead Spirit Urn S3 measurements were quite reasonable. Of the two ultimate skills, Spirit in the Urn was the ability to condense a dead spirit orb in the urn. As long as a magic elf died in battle within the range, the Dead Spirit Urn could condense a dead spirit orb in the urn. These dead spirit orbs were all 1-star offerings with 0 attack and 0 defense. After the Dead Spirit Urn was summoned, there were 3 dead spirit orbs. After the skeletal beauty snake died, it condensed a 4th dead spirit orb. Then, Dead Spirit Nakomata's first life gave it a 5th dead spirit orb. It was predictable. When Dead Spirit Nakomata's second life died, the Dead Spirit Urn would condense a 6th dead spirit orb. This special effect was very similar to the flame furnace that Dake had designed. However, other than being an offering, these dead spirit orbs had other uses. They were the energy source of Dead Spirit Explosion. Dead Spirit Explosion was a self-destructing ultimate skill. Each dead spirit orb could increase the power of Dead Spirit Explosion by 10%. 6 dead spirit orbs could increase the power of Dead Spirit Explosion by 60%. The base power of Dead Spirit Explosion was already very high. If it was increased by 60%, even a second-tier magic elf could be blown to pieces. However, unless there was no other choice, Sarah would not use this ultimate skill. Dead Spirit Nakomata's first life died and let out a meow from Dead Spirit's exclusion. Dream Demon also had a voice again. After Dake relaxed a little, he finally had the time to check the new magic cards that he had looted. He had only placed a total of 20 magic cards in the deck. He had started with 5, and now there were only 15 left. He only needed to touch these 15 magic cards 8 times to finish them. This meant that Dake could draw all the magic cards within 8 rounds. This 4th round was already halfway. Fantasy Beast, Ibu, Bliss 2. Basically, Bliss 2 existed to upgrade Illusory Beast, Ibu, to 2 stars. 2-star Fantasy Beast, Ibu, could use Misty Field, Bliss. Every Bliss magic elf could obtain an additional Body of Charm effect in Misty Field, Bliss. However, there was no need to use Misty Field, Bliss now. Instead, 2-star Ibu's Imitation would occasionally have a miraculous effect. However, Dake did not waste his energy on Fantasy Beast, Ibu's summoning. His hand was still on Bliss 3, ready to summon at any time. Meow. On the other side of Dead Spirit's exclusion, another mournful meow was heard. Dake was surprised by this, but the Dream Demon's painful wail followed closely behind. Come back, Dream Demon. Dake's heart tightened as he suddenly shouted. The Dream Demon heard the order and endured the pain as it came back from life's exclusion. Behind it, a grayish-white distorted shadow appeared. Its magic was rapidly decreasing by 100 points per second. It's Asbin's Words of Death. Dake immediately confirmed the existence of this secret ritual card. Asbin's Words of Death was a secret ritual card made according to the legend of the great alchemist, Asbin. It was also a secret ritual card that Sarah was used to. Even if Dake did not see what happened on the other side of life's exclusion, he could guess that after the Dream Demon killed Dead Spirit Tomato, it was attacked by Sarah's Curse of the Dead. With the Dream Demon's magic, it could not last more than 1 round. Too troublesome. Dake stared closely at life's exclusion that blocked his vision. If this black wall did not exist, he would definitely be able to command the Dream Demon more effectively, and even help it avoid Asbin's Words of Death. Sarah had hidden everything behind life's exclusion, making it impossible to guard against. Since it's like this, Fairy Ibu, use Moon Force. Me. Fairy Ibu immediately let out a high-pitched cry, and even its eyes became sharp. It also did not like this black wall, so it suddenly raised its head and began to gather moonlight. In the night sky, moonlight suddenly gathered into a beam and shone down on Fairy Ibu's body. Its body was bathed in moonlight, and it could not help but feel a bit more mysterious. Moon Force was originally an extremely powerful sure-kill skill, and now that it was bathed in moonlight, its power was doubled, and it emitted an extremely dangerous energy wave. Fairy Ibu opened its mouth, and pure moonlight quickly condensed into a ball in its mouth. It then aimed at Life's Exclusion, and suddenly shot it out. Boom! Moon Force's beam of light fiercely poured into Life's Exclusion. This wall of darkness finally began to violently fluctuate. However, after Moon Force had been released for half a second, Life's Exclusion had only become a bit thinner. On the blue team's platform, Sarah's smile was extremely bright. Life's Exclusion could last for 3 minutes. Within these 3 minutes, unless it was a sure-kill skill from the 3rd tier or above, it would be extremely difficult to break through. And with these 3 minutes and 6 rounds of buffering, she could very steadily draw and summon her trump card. In the name of Saraswati, I summon Death Mummy. Card name, Death Mummy. Type, Fairy card, level, race, Undying, attribute, dark, magic power, 1000, attack, 100, defense, 1600, sure kill skill, feign death. With the summon of another 3-star fairy, Sarah's lineup was once again expanded. Death Mummy and Life Mummy were both fairy cards that Sarah was used to using. She would usually order the Death Mummy to stuff the magic ball into its abdomen for protection, and during crucial moments, she would also use it as a stable sacrifice for sacrificial summoning. Moreover, the Death Mummy with Feign Death had 2 lives, just like Death Spirit Cat. It could provide the Death Spirit Jar with 2 Death Spirit Balls. After summoning the Death Mummy, Sarah finally began her sacrificial summoning. However, her sacrificial summoning was not as good as Dake's, and it took a longer time to chant. During this time, Dake had already summoned Bliss 3. Bathed in the light of Bliss 3, the Fox Demon was evolving into a 9-tailed fox. Another plan flashed through Dake's mind, but he quickly discarded it. Originally, he wanted to let the Fox Demon transform into a Dream Demon, and disguise itself as an undying species to obtain the ability to pass through Life's Exclusion. However, he was already extremely impatient with Life's Exclusion. Evolve! 9-tailed fox. The Bliss insignia had already appeared on the Fox Demon's forehead. The pink light surrounding its body made it emit a dense and seductive aura. Its body structure underwent a drastic change under the light of evolution. When the light of evolution dissipated, a golden fox with 9 tails had already appeared in the red side summoning area. The 9-tailed fox's tail and feet were burning with blue flames. In between its eyebrows and limbs, there were Tai Chi patterns that symbolized Tao. It was like a divine beast that guarded temples, shrines, and other places. After it evolved, Dake gave the order without hesitation, destroy that wall. After evolving, the 9-tailed fox was already a 6-star. The 9 tails on its back suddenly stood up, and the blue flames on its tail quickly condensed into ghost fire jades. It raised its head and let out a soft cry, and the 9 ghost fire jades were controlled by it to form a ring of 9 fireballs. Then, it swung its tail, and the 9 spinning ghost fire jades shot towards Life's Exclusion. Rumble! The 9 ghost fire jades exploded together, and the pitch-black wall was on the verge of collapsing. Life's Exclusion became extremely transparent. Through the translucent black wall, Dake could finally see the blue side summoning area clearly again. His eyes flashed, and he said in a low voice, "Dream Demon, get ready." There was a huge difference between the sacrificial summoning spell and the normal summoning spell. When Sarah began to use the sacrificial summoning spell, Dake immediately sensed it. As soon as he finished speaking, Sarah's sacrificial summoning spell was completed. Although the sacrificial summoning process was out of his expectations, the dead mummy, was not offered as a sacrifice. A total of 5 white lights suddenly shot out from the ancient clay jar, and the white lights shot out from the magic card in Sarah's hand converged in the air. A huge sacrificial summoning spell was created. Saraswati had finally summoned a second-tier magic fairy for the first time since the start of the duel. And the dream demon finally had a blood bag that could sustain its life. Therefore, both contestants smiled at the same time. The magic fairy that jumped out of the sacrificial summoning spell was a subhuman with a wolf head and a human body. However, this werewolf did not emit a bloodthirsty aura. Its fur was snow-white, its eyes were gentle, and its body was covered in a snow-white sacrificial robe. It was a werewolf priest that was almost impossible to find in the werewolf community. Card name: White Wolf Priest. Type: Fairy card. Level: Race: Subhuman. Attribute: Light, Magic Power, 2300. Attack: 2100. Defense: 1500. Ultimate skills: Fairy Wolf, Self-Healing. The light attribute, White Wolf Priest, was an extremely lofty existence among Sarah's magic guiding fairies. However, Sarah was still a student who had just entered her second year. She didn't have much choice in choosing her magic guide fairy. A 5-star magic fairy card was necessary to increase the limit of the card deck. Moreover, the White Wolf Priest's 3 measurements and ultimate skills were not bad. Its 1,500 points of defense could also allow it to resist almost all the normal attacks of the first-tier magic fairies. The ultimate skill, Fairy Wolf, could summon 2 3-star fairy wolves. The ultimate skill, Self-Healing, could allow itself and the summoned fairy wolves to obtain the effect of high-speed self-healing. Whether it was in an adventure or a duel, it could be used as a front row. Of course, as a blood bag. Its 2,300 points of magic could also extend the life of the Dream Demon for another 10 seconds. Almost at the moment the White Wolf Priest was summoned, the Dream Demon used its ultimate skill, Pain Sharing, on it. Then, without hesitation, it rushed past life's prohibition and pounced on the Death Soul Jar. The White Wolf Priest's sacrificial summoning had already exposed the use of the Death Soul Jar. Without needing Dake to say anything, the Dream Demon changed its target. Sarah's expression changed and she hurriedly shouted, "Protect the Death Soul Jar." The White Wolf Priest, whose magic had suddenly decreased by nearly half, was stunned on the spot, allowing the Dream Demon to pass by it. However, the Death Mummy, with 100% proficiency, shot out the bandages on both sides of its body, wrapped around the Death Soul Jar, and pressed it into its stomach. Even though the Death Mummy's defense was actually lower than the Death Soul Jar, it still did so. Then, the Death Mummy was killed by the Dream Demon in an instant. Inside the Death Soul Jar, there was an additional ball of death. During this process, the 4th round quietly changed. The duel entered the 5th round. The smile on Sarah's face had completely disappeared. As she drew the card, she issued a new order. The White Wolf Priest immediately summoned the Fairy Wolf, and then released the ultimate skill, Self-Healing. Its magic began to recover quickly, and it also blocked in front of the magic ball. As for Sarah, she once again chanted the sacrificial summoning spell. A second-tier magic guide fairy with more than half of its magic power. A first-tier magic guide fairy that can't be used as a sacrifice, but can store 2 1-star sacrifices. With this as a sacrifice, magic guide summoning. Rumble. The raging blue flames turned into the shape of a dragon, and fiercely bombarded the life's prohibition. The black wall, which had already become transparent, became even thinner again. The 9-tailed fox raised its head and let out a long cry. The blue flames all over its body condensed into a huge energy ball, and a terrifying energy fluctuation spread out. When this Tengu was released, Fairy Ibu in front of the wall had already retreated. The huge energy ball bombarded the life's prohibition without any obstruction, and then it loudly exploded. A flame-like blue circle of light instantly spread out. An extremely terrifying mushroom cloud soared into the sky. The deafening explosion made the audience cry out in alarm. The wall of the life's prohibition was completely shattered by this terrifying explosion. Then, the blue summoning area behind it was also completely swallowed by the aftermath of the explosion. But in this explosion, the sacrificial summoning formation stubbornly flickered with light. Sarah nervously watched all of this. The sudden change made her unsure whether the sacrificial summoning was successful or not. Good morning. It's yet another day of failure. Asterisk asterisk, asterisk asterisk asterisk. 6/ But I suddenly realized that I've already written more than 180,000 words this month. I've already finished writing a month's worth of words. I don't know if the bounty can exceed 100 chapters. Anyway, I'm begging for more votes. Chapter 605. However, Sarah quickly felt the connection between the magic fairy and herself, and immediately felt relieved. Then, she immediately drew her cards, which increased the number of cards in her hand from 1 to 3. At the same time, Dake also drew his cards, increasing his hand from 2 to 4. Magic Beast, Ibu, Bliss 2. Magic Beast, Ever-Changing, Pride. However, both sides did not pay attention to the magic cards in their hands, but instead focused on the situation. At this moment, Fairy Ibu had already retreated to the center. 1 second to remember https://m. Vipkanshu. VIP. After releasing the Tengu, the nine-tailed fox was panting heavily. The blue flames on its body had already disappeared without a trace. The first dragon egg was still in the state of being unhatched. The purple fog above the arena had been washed away by the shock waves of the explosion. As for the nightmare realm, it also dissipated along with the fog. Not only did the nine-tailed fox's Tengu destroy the life's prohibition that only a third-tier magic fairy could destroy, it even swallowed the entire blue summoning area. When the smoke and dust from the explosion gradually dispersed, the blue summoning area was finally exposed. Dake Diming's dream demon had already disappeared without a trace. It was unknown if it was killed by the shock waves of the explosion, or if it was cursed to death by the Aspen's whispers of death. As for Saraswati's death mummy, after dying, it had activated a sure-kill skill called False Death, and once again condensed its body from the drifting magic, before being destroyed by the explosion once again. Before dying for the second time, it chose to protect the more important magic conducting ball. As a result, the Death Soul jar that had lost its protection was completely destroyed. Although before it was destroyed, the Death Soul jar had 2 more Death Soul orbs, but once those 2 Death Soul orbs rolled out, they scattered with the wind, not leaving behind any residue. As for the blue magic conducting ball, under the protection of the death mummy, it successfully withstood the shock waves of the explosion. Although the surface of the barrier of life was still covered in cracks, it did not completely shatter. Sarah pointed with her finger, and the blue magic conducting ball was guided by her magic and flew into the sky. On the ground of the blue side summoning area, only the successfully summoned third-tier magic guide sprite was left. Even though it was the weakest 7 stars in the third tier, its existence still brought about a great sense of oppression. Sarah's eyes were brimming with confidence as she said to Dake, "Although it's not as good as yours, this is the strongest trump card I've created so far. I wonder if it can surprise you?" Dake looked at the 7-star magic elf and said indifferently, "Speaking of surprises, your life's prohibition has already brought me enough surprises." In comparison, the surprise that life's end brought him was even greater. It was hard to imagine that the defensive spell that required the 9-tailed fox to release the Tengu to shatter it came from a second-year student. Compared to that, the surprise brought by a 7-star magic conducting elf was nothing more than this. In the blue side summoning area, the 7-star magic guide sprite was standing straight. It was a tall mummy that was at least 3 meters tall. The mummy's body was wrapped in slightly messy snow-white bandages. Whether it was its legs or feet, they were extremely thin and long. Only its fingers, toes, ankles, eyes, ears, and a few other parts of its face were exposed. However, the parts that were exposed were like charcoal, with a hint of charcoal red in the darkness. It was like charcoal that was still burning. Even though its body was thin and long, its shoulders were extremely wide and protruded outwards. Its head was the same. The top of its head was flat and protruded outwards like horns. Card name, Lava Mummy. Type, Sprite card. Level, Race, Undying Species. Attribute, Dark/Fire. Magic, 3000. Attack, 3200. Defense, 2400. Sure kill skills. Flame Fist, Lava Reincarnation, Mummy's Wrath. An undying species that possessed both dark and fire attributes, a lava mummy that was transformed from a lava troll. Even though it was Dake's first time seeing this magic guide sprite, he had some understanding of the lava mummy. The so-called lava mummy was originally a creature that was pushed into the boiling mouth of a volcano. After being soaked in lava and burned, it was fished out and bandaged. Different creatures could create different lava mummies. If the conditions were met, it could be revived through sacrificial rituals and other means, which was to refine it into an undying species. Within the demon race's army, there was once an extremely terrifying army that was formed by lava mummies. They were undying and indestructible. Wherever they went, it would be like a drought that dried up the water source and prohibited all living creatures. The lava mummy that Sarah had summoned was at least at the commander level. Even though this lava mummy was a 7-star magic guide sprite, among its 3 attributes, only its attack exceeded the 6-star peak value. However, it was an orange card that possessed 3 sure kill skills. Since Sarah had made it her trump card, there must be something special about it that no one knew about. Dake tried his best to be cautious. Then, with a light tap of his finger, he immediately dismissed the 9-tailed fox's summon. Before the 9-tailed fox degenerated into a demon fox due to its weakness, he stored it back into the magic guide card. After releasing the Tengu, this magic guide sprite had basically lost its combat ability. It would only be a distraction if it stayed on the field. Thus, only Fairy Ibu and First Dragon Egg were left on the field. Compared to before, Dake's situation was obviously at a disadvantage. However, he was not anxious at all. Lava Mummy, Flame Fist. Sarah's command suddenly rang out. The 3-meter-tall lava mummy suddenly shook its arms, and dark red flames ignited from its fists to its shoulders with a boom sound. It was obvious that the flame fist must have given it additional magic damage. However, the lava mummy's usage of the flame fist was still unexpected. After receiving the order, it suddenly threw a punch in the direction of Fairy Ibu. From its fist, a gigantic flame fist suddenly shot out. Rumble! Following the dispelling of the nightmare realm, Ivan the fairy regained its agility. With a light leap, it dodged the flaming fist. However, when the flaming fist landed on the ground, it still produced a powerful explosion. Before Ivan the fairy could breathe a sigh of relief, the lava mummy had already punched out a second time. With every punch, the flames on the furnace mummy's arms dimmed a little. However, the lava mummy only threw out 2 punches before it suddenly sped up and rushed out. Ivan the fairy was unable to completely dodge the second flaming fist and was blasted away by the shockwave. Although it successfully landed on its 4 limbs, it was still in a sorry state. Awoo! With its 4 limbs on the ground, it let out a threatening roar towards the lava mummy. However, with bewitching voice and moon force in cooldown, it didn't have any good methods to counterattack. Lava mummy, avoid contact, use flame fist to kill it. Sarah immediately gave an even more detailed command. In the blink of an eye, the lava mummy had crossed the center line and charged into the red half of the summoning zone. An even more ferocious flame gathered on its right arm. When it charged in front of Ivan the fairy, the flame on its right arm was like a layer of flaming armor, completely covering its arm. As the saying goes, this was the real deal, flame fist. With this punch, Ivan the fairy was unable to block it. Sarah was already on guard against the bewitching body, causing her to be unable to display her charm. She could only watch as the flames burned away her vision. Roar! From the red summoning zone, a majestic dragon roar suddenly sounded. The curve at the corner of Saraswati's mouth gradually increased, but in that instant, her expression suddenly changed. The magic absorption spell, magic card, was still floating in front of her, continuously absorbing the magic power of the primordial dragon egg to replenish itself. But that dragon egg had still hatched. The dragon has been born. The commentator, Zach Wilson, shouted with an impassioned expression, driving the atmosphere of the scene to its highest point. Dake put down the pride card in his hand. Pouring the power of the pride into the primordial dragon egg could very stably hatch a 7-star, green eyes white dragon. Although Sarah's magic absorption spell could be considered the nemesis of almost all magic elves, it was only a small water pipe compared to the energy that the pride had poured into it in an instant. It simply didn't have time to drain the power of the dragon egg before that green-eyed white dragon broke out of its shell with a dragon roar. 7-star against 7-star, who will have the last laugh? After the green eyes white dragon broke out of its shell, its body rapidly grew to the size of an adult. Its wide wings suddenly flapped, and a violent airflow was generated downwards, pushing its huge body into the sky. When this noble white dragon with green veins all over its body circled in the air, the audience outside the arena was attracted to it. What a beautiful white dragon! Some people were amazed, some people were praising it. The 5th round passed quickly. Card name, Green Eyes White Dragon. Type, Elven card, level, race, dragon. Attribute, Light/Dragon. Magic power, 3000. Attack, 3500. Defense, 3000. Ultimate skills, Dragon Egg Transformation, Green Eyes Incarnation, Destructive White Light Spray, Hall of Light. In the blink of an eye, the Green Eyes White Dragon swooped down from the sky. However, it didn't land on the ground, but hovered right in front of the red team's platform. Green Eyes White Dragon, Destructive White Light Spray. The noble white dragon didn't need claws and teeth. Dake's calm voice hid his uncontrollable excitement. To be able to summon the Green Eyes White Dragon on the duel stage was already a memorable day for him. If it was the Green Eyes White Dragon, then it would be even better. Roar! The Green Eyes White Dragon raised its head and roared, and then a blazing white light gathered in its bloody mouth, and in the blink of an eye, it turned into a huge ball of light that emitted a terrifying aura. Sure kill skill. Destructive White Light Spray. Roar! The Green Eyes White Dragon lowered its head, and the destructive white light shot out from its mouth towards the lava mummy on the ground. They were both 7-star elves, but the difference between them was like heaven and earth. Cross defense. The lava mummy crossed its arms, and the flames on its arms converged to form a flame barrier. However, the flame barrier was broken in the blink of an eye. The Green Eyes White Dragon's attack power was as high as 3,500 points, and this, destructive white light spray, was like an extension of its attack power. Each shot consumed 100 points of mana, and it took 3 seconds to charge up. There was no cooldown. After being hit by the destructive white light spray, the damage caused by the destructive white light spray couldn't be recovered. After the lava mummy's defense was broken, its mana dropped sharply. Sala realized something, and her expression changed slightly. She quickly looked at the cards in her hand. Out of the 3 cards in her hand, one was the Sphinx Cat, one was the Fantasy Beast, Bennu Bird, and the last one was a special item that wasn't used right now. Her brain turned quickly, and she quickly thought, this kind of ultimate skill has a long cooldown. As long as the lava mummy can withstand it, that Green Eyes White Dragon will still land on the ground. Unless... Sala suddenly looked at the magic ball in front of her, and her expression changed drastically. She hurriedly said, "Defend." The lava mummy immediately retreated. With a point of her finger, she adjusted the magic ball's position so that it wouldn't be hit directly by the Green Eyes White Dragon's attack. Her magic ball was bombarded by the aftermath of the explosion, and the life enchantment was on the verge of breaking. It couldn't rely on any heavy hits. However, if she wanted to launch a counterattack against Dake, she needed another magic card that could make the magic fairy fly. Now that the 5th round is over, starting with 5 cards, 4 rounds of 8 cards, a total of 13 cards, and 7 cards in the deck. The probability of drawing it in the next round is... Sala quickly calculated the results and made up her mind. Her deck was a standard 20 cards, which greatly reduced the probability of drawing a useless magic card. Tick. Before the lava mummy returned to the blue side summoning area, the 30-second countdown for the 5th round had ended. Battle stage 6. 30s. But at that moment, from the mouth of the green eyes white dragon, a white ball of light that emitted a terrifying aura gathered again. Destructive white light spray. Dake Dimming suddenly pointed. The second, destructive white light spray, pierced through the arena. The left shoulder of the lava mummy disappeared permanently. Looking at the lava mummy's 900 points of magic power disappear in an instant, Sala's fingers couldn't help but tremble. But when she raised her head, she saw the destructive white light spray gathering in the mouth of the green eyes white dragon again. At that moment, the audience outside the arena was in an uproar. The magic fairy's ultimate skills usually had a relatively long cooldown. A skill like this that didn't have a cooldown and only needed to charge up was very rare and almost impossible to see. Moreover, it was such a terrifying ultimate skill. Facing such a situation, before Sala could clearly see the magic card that she had drawn, she knew very clearly that she couldn't wait any longer. Lava Reincarnation, Fury of the Mummy. 2 consecutive commands were issued. The lava mummy's body was like burning coal, emitting a high-temperature ray. The snow-white bandage was burning from the inside out. Gradually, hot lava began to flow on its body that was exposed to the air. The dark fire suppressed in the body rushed to the top of its head like a flame rushing to the crown. Lava Reincarnation. Turn the immortal body into an elemental body, gaining a part of physical immunity and high-speed self-healing for a short time, increasing the power of the fire element's ultimate skills. Fury of the Mummy. Remove the bandage and completely release the dark fire suppressed in the body, increasing the attack and defense by a large margin. It also refreshed the cooldown of the Flame Fist, increasing its effect. Sarah's Lava Mummy. As 3 sure kill skills were very practical. Especially, Lava Reincarnation, it could allow the Lava Mummy to gain super fast self-healing ability for a short period of time. Together with the increased defense of Mummy's Wrath, it could make the lava mummy truly immortal. And these 2 ultimate skills could increase the effect of the fire element, Flame Fist. The combination of the 2 made the Flame Fist unprecedentedly powerful. However, when the lava mummy activated these 2 ultimate skills, Sala suddenly realized that the lava mummy's mana had only recovered a little, and then it stopped at 1,700 points. It could not increase any more. The original 3,000 points of mana seemed to have been eaten away by a large part. It could not recover its high-speed self-healing ability, and it could not recover to full. Despite the shock in his heart, Sala knew that he could not think too much. Use Flame Fist on it. The first time he crossed his defense, it did indeed offset part of the white light. If he used Flame Fist on it, it might be possible to eliminate it. Sala did not think that the green-eyed white dragon could continuously shoot out white light. There must be a limit. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the burning right fist of the lava mummy collided with the destructive white light of the green-eyed white dragon. With a terrifying explosion, the fire energy on the lava mummy's fist was scattered, but it also blocked the white light. The greatly improved attack and defense allowed it to successfully resist the attack. However, the green-eyed white dragon, which had shot out the 3rd destructive white light, opened its mouth again and gathered the terrifying light attribute energy. Sala's eyelids twitched, and he took the opportunity to look at the magic card in his hand. In the 2 new magic cards that he had obtained, there was a magic elf card named Batwing Demon. Card name, Batwing Demon. Type, elf card, level, race, devil. Attribute, dark, mana, 500, attack, 0, defense, 0, ultimate skills, parasitism, stealth. The Batwing Demon was only a 1-star, and it did not have the slightest attack and defense ability. In the ranks of the demons, it was even lower than the Little Devil. However, it had a natural ability that the Little Devil did not have. Not only could it parasitize a strong species in the form of a bat wing, but it could also help it to hide. In the name of Saraswati, I summon. Boom. Before he could successfully summon it, the fourth, destructive white light spray, had already shot out. The lava mummy stood in front of the blue square magic ball and did not retreat half a step, and once again swung the flame fist. As long as the flames were not extinguished, the flame fist would not be extinguished. In Sala's deck, the lava mummy was the absolute core trump card, and there was no substitute for it. This meant that once the lava mummy fell, it would be time for her to fall as well. The only chance for her to do so was to reverse the situation and destroy the red square magic ball's life enchantment. However, just like how she had moved the blue square magic ball behind the lava mummy, Dake had also moved the blue square magic ball behind the green-eyed white dragon. With Dake's vigilance, she would not be able to succeed. On the red square's platform, Dake looked at the two new magic cards that he had obtained, but he did not summon them yet. Scabbard, weapon form. Bliss 3, Moon. Bliss 3, Moon, could allow Illusory Beast, Ibu, to evolve into Moon Ibu. Scabbard, weapon form, could transform into a fairy form. He could summon 2 second-tier magic fairies at an extremely fast speed. However, these 2 magic guide fairies couldn't do anything in front of the lava mummy. At this time, he chose to believe in the green-eyed white dragon. It could even be said that, when he hatched the green-eyed white dragon, he already had the ability to end this duel at any time. This was not arrogance. Destructive white light spray. The green-eyed white dragon shot out white light for the 5th time, and the lava mummy once again used Flame Fist to counter. However, after this collision, the flames on its body were already showing signs of extinguishing. The Batwing Demon then descended from the sky. Behind the lava mummy's back, 2 pitch-black bat wings suddenly spread out. Then, without hesitation, it flapped its wings and flew high, gathering the last of its dark flames on its fist. Use Flame Fist on it. Sarah slammed the table, slamming all the remaining cards in her hand onto the table. She stared at the green-eyed white dragon that opened its mouth to gather white light once again. The destructive white light spray, after destructive white light spray, had already shaken her judgment. The lava mummy flew faster and faster, like a huge burning meteor. However, Dake Dimming on the red team's platform still spoke in an extremely calm tone. Destructive white light spray. Roar. The green-eyed white dragon shot out its 6th destructive white light spray at the lava mummy. The blazing white destructive white light spray and the pitch-black undying flames collided at an extremely close distance, as if the entire world was going to be divided into black and white. A terrifying explosion resounded throughout the entire stadium. Everyone's vision was swallowed up. Pooh, eating melons is killing me. 7/. But there are too many melons, too big. Chapter 606. Boom. When the sound wave stopped, the dust fell to the ground. The white light swallowed the black fire. The lava mummy's black fire was completely extinguished, and the destructive white light swallowed its right arm, causing its already plummeting magic to worsen. The green-eyed white dragon flew in the air, looking down coldly at the lava mummy that was blown back by its breath, and slowly opened its mouth again. The rapidly condensing white ball of light in its mouth made Saraswati, who was on the blue side's platform, feel as if she had fallen into an ice cave. It can actually shoot again. Whether it was the students, professors, or the audience outside, none of them could have imagined that the green-eyed white dragon could shoot so well. Sarah took a deep breath and slowly picked up the cards on the table. Even if her heart had already sunk to the bottom, giving up just like that was not her style. Thinking about it carefully, it seemed that from the moment the adult white dragon hatched from the dragon egg, everything had already gone out of control. Website: https://m Vipkanchu. VIP. Even though the adult white dragon was only 1 star higher than the young cyanide dragon, the additional star represented an increase in size and size, as well as the ability to continuously shoot out the destructive white beam spray. All of these made the young cyanide WYRM much more powerful than the young cyanide dragon. With its destructive white light spray, the green-eyed white dragon had completely turned into a cannon, becoming the nightmare of the low-star magic guide fairies. Even the lava mummy, a 7-star magic guide fairy that could gain near immortality for a short period of time, could not withstand the continuous shooting. Battle Stage 7. 30s. Tick. The moment the turn changed, Sarah drew her cards again. There were not many magic guide cards left in the deck, and Sarah was very clear about the magic guide cards she could draw. Her brain was working to the limit, trying to find the last chance to break out of this hopeless situation. Boom! The lava mummy finally fell after countless shots from the green-eyed white dragon. Sarah only temporarily summoned a 3-star magic guide fairy from the blue side summoning area. Then, that 3-star magic guide fairy was instantly swallowed by the destructive white light that pierced through the entire arena. The destructive white light spray of the green eyes white dragon was able to unleash the full power of its attack. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for a 3-star magic guide fairy to survive the destruction beam. After the 3-star magic elf was killed, the green eyes inferior white dragon opened its mouth again. As the white ball of light once again gathered in his mouth, a faint aura of despair quietly spread out. The audience outside the arena seemed to have felt this aura and slowly quieted down. Sola did not manage to complete her next summon before the green-eyed white dragon fired another shot. Thus, the green eyes inferior white dragon set its sights on the blue magic ball. With this last ray of destructive white light, the already cracked life enchantment sphere shattered like a weathered rock. Phew! Looking at the number representing her HP reaching 0, Sarah actually felt a faint sense of relief. However, she quickly closed her eyes and patted her cheeks hard to pull herself together. There wasn't a single expert who didn't walk on the sharp blade of failure. She couldn't fall on the path of growth. On the contrary, it was a very fortunate thing to have someone who could keep up with her on the path of growth. Sarah took a deep breath and arranged the magic cards in her hand. The referee's whistle sounded. The battle has ended. Winner, Dake Dimming. This intense and suffocating duel has finally come to an end. Contestant Dark Diamond has fought 3 matches today and won all 3 matches, earning a total of 9 points. Compared to December this year, we'll definitely see him standing on the stage of the top 8. The commentator, Zach Wilson, relaxed his tense nerves and said with a sigh. In addition, although Saraswati lost this duel, her performance was also very amazing. It's hard to see such a high-level battle in a second-year competition. She's worthy of being the successor of this Sage of the Ancients, and her performance was very beautiful. The audience outside the arena applauded loudly, and many people began to shout Dake Diming's name. They didn't forget that the designer of the battle simulation game was also called Dake Dimming. In this situation, Dake didn't even need to deliberately promote it. The audience further deepened their impression of the battle simulation and became more and more interested in it. After all, they could see at a glance that Dake Dimming was bound to become a rising star in the battle world. And the battle simulation game props were like the surroundings of this future star duelist. It was as if the battle simulation was suddenly given some other value that had nothing to do with the game itself. In the front row of the audience, Arvette was already whispering to the 2 viscountesses beside her. Although she kept talking about her baby's strengths, the 2 viscountesses didn't get tired of listening and even joined in the discussion. Next to them, the eldest prince, Charles, frowned slightly and let out a helpless sigh. He didn't come here to watch anyone's battle today. It was rare for him to have some free time, so he came here to watch a battle to relax. After all, there weren't many large-scale entertainment venues in the kingdom. He was now in the crucial period of establishing his character, so it was impossible for him to go to those random places for entertainment. Therefore, the Shang Malian Battle Hall became a better place to go. But after watching the opening ceremony of the Silver Cup, and the subsequent battles, he didn't relax. Instead, he became more worried. On one hand, it was because the growth of the Valkyrie's son was too terrifying. On the other hand, it was because of the battle simulation. The kingdom was in a very special era. The most basic problem of people's livelihood was solved by the explosive growth of magical technology. In a very short time, everyone has enough to eat was achieved, which was difficult to achieve in the past. As for the desire to keep warm, once people had enough to eat, they would instinctively chase after further satisfaction. The so-called Renaissance came from this. People thirsted for spiritual entertainment and needed more cultural materials to fill the emptiness in their hearts after the war. Therefore, all kinds of literature and entertainment rose up. But in this, the rise of magical duels played a crucial role in guiding this. Because it was common knowledge that the reason why the war was won was because of the strength of the magisters. Therefore, after the war, people's yearning for powerful magisters shifted to the pursuit of magical duels. This was the reason why people were so passionate about magic duels. The battle simulation was a simplified version of the magical duels that existed for all people. Not only could it inherit people's good impression of magical duels, but it also greatly lowered the threshold for people to participate. Moreover, it had the authority of the Shang-Molian Academy's certification. Therefore, the rise of the battle simulation was almost inevitable. Charles always felt that he could foresee the future. Behind the battle simulation was Dake Dimming. To him, it meant that it was the Valkyrie's business. The Valkyrie was already very difficult to deal with, and now she had such a business with explosive commercial potential. Once she rose to power, she might be able to influence the public opinion from many sides. If the Valkyrie's power eventually developed to the point where it could overwhelm the saint, it would be a huge nightmare for him. No, I have to think of something. Charles looked up at the chair and closed his eyes. Headache. While the spectators outside the arena were having different thoughts, the two contestants on the arena began to talk. Your white dragon is too good at shooting. Sarah couldn't help but complain, her voice carrying a rare weakness. Dake knew that this was the time to encourage her, so he said, Your curses and secret methods have also opened my eyes. That lava mummy activated a high-speed self-healing sure-kill skill at the end, right? Yes. Sarah nodded. Dake laughed. Then I'm considered lucky. The Green Eyes White Dragon is able to counter this sure-kill skill. But speaking of which, it's all thanks to your mana absorption curse. Otherwise, I wouldn't have chosen to hatch the Green Eyes White Dragon. Of course, even if the Green Eyes White Dragon was hatched, he could still turn it back into a dragon egg and hatch it again. But this process was more complicated, and there was also the risk of the dragon egg being broken. Sarah didn't dwell too much on this point. Instead, she suddenly smiled and said, At this time, should I say something fierce? By the way, where's your white cat? She clearly remembered the time when she was teased by the white cat during the first grade competition. She also wanted to say something harsh, but in the end, she couldn't say anything useful. In the end, she just casually said, I won't forget today's humiliation. Now that a year had passed, she was once again defeated on the duel stage, but she was no longer as irrational as before. She was satisfied with her growth and found some of her mood again. But after being asked, Dake thought of something and said helplessly, It's not in this set of cards. He had clearly stored all the magical elves except the ancient beast into the cards, but in the end, only 20 of them were used. And this was the first time he tried to build a deck with bliss as the theme, but in the end, he relied on pride to achieve victory. If he thought about it carefully, this really couldn't be considered a successful attempt. But in the 3 duels in a row, he still felt a sense of smoothness that he didn't have before. The reason why this set of bliss cards didn't perform well wasn't because of the concept, but simply because there was a lack of more series of cards. For example, there was no bliss. Since there's no problem with the concept, what's next is the accumulation of time. Dake lowered his head and thought. When he looked up again, Sarah had already left the stage. And the host, Senior Sister Judy, also teleported to his side. The third duel tonight. A gentle whisper like a spring breeze blew into Dake's ear, and he hurriedly took half a step back. With a straight face, he said, 3 minutes. Senior Sister Judy quietly rolled her eyes, turned to the audience and said, As you can see, Dake Dimming, who is standing on the duel stage for the 3rd time today, has once again won the duel. And we will also conduct a post-match interview with him for the third time. I know that everyone is very curious about Dake Dimming and wants to know more about him. But for some non-public information, we need the person's permission to mention it. So, tonight, I want to try a new game. Let Dake Dimming control the question segment. What do you think? After the audience outside the field digested this paragraph carefully, they suddenly shouted with great interest. Just as Judy said, they were very curious about Dake Dimming. Since the host couldn't casually ask questions, wouldn't it be fine to let the contestants answer their own questions? This was truly a genius idea. Winky face. But amidst the tidal wave of cheers, Dake looked at senior sister Judy as if she was an idiot. Which idiot would ask questions that would cause them trouble if they answered their own questions? For example, he didn't want to be called the Valkyrie's son, like White. If he had to choose one, he would rather be called the father of mock duels. No, this asking and answering your own questions also had its benefits. Since his identity as the designer of the mock duel had been exposed, he might as well use this opportunity to announce this matter. At the same time, he could also advertise the mock duel. Now, in every duel hall around the world, there were already duel plates, cards, and cards hidden in model eggs being sold. This first sales data would be used as a consideration for how much resources should be invested in promoting the duel. After all, the so-called guesses, judgments, and premonitions were not supported by real data. The market was ever-changing, and only when one entered the market would they have specific data. If Dake did the right thing, he might be able to pull in a wave of sales. He thought for a moment and made up his mind. Then, he took the microphone from Judy with a smile and faced the audience. He said, "First of all, let me introduce myself. This is Dake Dimming, second year of the Shangmalian Academy, Noble House. Many of you should have heard of the surname Dimming, so I won't say too much. Since senior sister Judy wants me to answer my own questions, I'll start with the questions. Question 1. What do you think of this duel? First of all, this is a question that needs to be asked from the perspective of the host. Since this is the post-match interview of the winner of the duel, this is the basics of the basics. As a duelist, my impression of this duel is quite good. It ignited my passion as a duelist and gave me an emotion called excitement. One of the greatest joys of a duel is facing the unknown. Contestant Saraswati brought me too many surprises. I like it very much." Saraswati, who had just walked off the stage, suddenly stopped in her tracks. But soon her ears turned red as she realized that she had misunderstood. Seriously, what was I thinking? After Dake quickly finished his thoughts on the duel, he asked the second question. Question 2. Were you really the one who designed the duel simulation game? Doc glanced at senior sister Judy, who was smiling beside him, and said, "I know everyone is very interested in the authenticity of this duel. Here, I want to answer that it's real. However, the simulated duel was born out of the magic duel. It's not entirely true that I designed it myself. I've only simplified and improved the rules of the magic duel based on the foundation of the magic duel, adding in more strategic elements. After all, the duel simulation is different from the magic duel. It needs some additional elements to expand the depth, such as the graveyard. In the duel simulation, the graveyard's existence makes it easier for us to resurrect the destroyed magic fairies. Various magic cards that can be resurrected after death will also be released in the future. As for the design of the cards, although most of the magic fairies have prototypes, and most of them are magic fairies that were shown by the students of the Shangmalian Academy, there are also many cards that were created by me personally. I can add some effects that are difficult to achieve in the duel simulation cards, which is very interesting." The 3 minutes of the interview quickly passed, and Dake was still talking tirelessly. Judy didn't interrupt, and the audience listened attentively. After a few minutes, the design of the simulated duel was slowly revealed in Doc's words. If one had to put it into words, this was actually not difficult. After all, this was a duel game for everyone. Lowering the difficulty level was the core point from the very beginning. The real difficulty was creating something from nothing. By the time Dake finished his speech, the audience was already in awe. They no longer doubted that he was the designer. Whether it was Dake or Mock Duel, they were gradually labeled with different labels. Dake's title as the duelist gradually came into being. XX Designer. Although it lacked a descriptive suffix, the audience clearly preferred to call him the designer of the simulation duel rather than his actual name. Over time, the title of XX Designer might be born. Originally, the title of a duelist was proof of one's popularity. That's all for the interview. Dark placed his hand between his chest and abdomen, bowed slightly, and returned the microphone to senior sister Judy. Judy smiled and said, "We've already taken up too much of the next duel's time. Since our audience has been satisfied, let's invite the next group of contestants to come on stage." When Dake came down from the stage, the next contestant was already waiting at the stairs. He greeted the student and walked straight to the contestants' tunnel. Not long after, Dake returned to his seat in the ring. Doran and Pittan immediately asked him all sorts of questions. He signaled the two to lower their voices so that they wouldn't disturb the audience. But as he spoke, the students behind him couldn't help but ask questions. Clearly, everyone was more interested in his identity as the designer than the duel on stage. As time went on, the opening duel of the Silver Cup finally came to an end. At 9 o'clock sharp, tonight's duel ended. The audience began to leave one after another. The students and professors in the venue also got up and left. A huge torrent of people rushed out of the outdoor duel arena. Dake didn't want to be a decoration in the torrent, so he waited outside for a while. Then Doran suddenly interrupted, "Dake, how about going to Traveler Street to eat something tonight?" "It's my treat." Dake dimming. This was the first time he was invited by a guy in the same grade for supper. But he thought about it and refused. Although it was a pity, he already prepared supper tonight, so he couldn't accept Doran's invitation. Doran said helplessly, "Is it Aurora? She's been sending you supper for a month. Do you know how it feels to be able to smell the fragrance in the hallway every night when we open the door?" Dake laughed and said, "You guys have fun tonight." "Okay." Doran sighed and took Pittan and a few other people in the small circle to go to the night market on Traveler Street and eat some snacks to relieve the pressure. Yes, pressure. Tonight's opening duel of the Silver Cup, other than being a feast for the eyes, also made most of the ambitious second-year students feel a huge amount of pressure. Why are you guys so strong when we're all in the same grade? The existence of a top-notch person could always lead to an increase in the overall level. Dake walked a step behind the crowd. But at some point, Anna and Luo C appeared beside him hand in hand. The three of them gathered together and walked towards the tower under the moonlight. They climbed the spiral staircase and arrived at the 10th floor of the clock tower, where the lights were bright. When they opened the door, they saw the sub-beast telling a story to the little girl. The little bear cub with short arms and legs was also sitting on the sofa, holding a book and reading it. As for the other two contestants of the Magical Animal Society, they most likely returned to the tower after watching the duel. Dake first summoned the Magician Secretary, then with the help of the Magician Secretary, he summoned the rest of the magical spirits one by one. The schedule for tomorrow and the day after would be released before midnight. But Dake guessed that his schedule for this week should have already been completed, so he didn't care. But Anna and Luo C were excitedly discussing the upcoming duel. They stayed in the Magical Animal Society until 10 at night, then returned to the tower of the aristocrat house. Dake had just finished the all-nourishing soup that Aurora sent over and was discussing today's Silver Cup with her when the branch card in his card bag suddenly vibrated. Beep! The sound of a message notification rang out. Dake pulled out the branch card, with some doubts, and found that he still had a duel schedule in the next 2 days. Good morning. 8/. It's the end of the month. The monthly votes will expire if you don't vote. There's no upper limit for this month's votes. You can vote more than 5. Chapter 607. Is it the competition schedule? Aurora came over and asked softly. She enjoyed her supper every night as it made her feel like she was moving towards her goal. There's a match tomorrow and the day after. Dake showed her the branch card, and said, "I thought that after the 3 matches today, I would be a pure spectator. I didn't think that the person who arranged the schedule would still remember me." Then he shook his head and said, "But this is good too. The earlier I fill up the schedule, the more time I have to do my own things. Alright, next week, I should go to the underground city again." "You're going to the underground city again?" Aurora looked at the branch card, and then looked away. Dake nodded and said, "I still have some things to do." He didn't reveal the details of the underground city. It wasn't good to say too much about it before it was clear. Fortunately, Aurora wasn't someone who would get to the bottom of it. "Remember the website, Vip, can't you?" She quickly revealed a shy smile and said, "Then I won't be coming next Friday and Saturday night." "Okay." Dake said, "I'll be troubling you these days." Aurora shook her head slightly and said, "It's not troublesome, I just like to cook." But as she spoke, her face turned red. She quickly got up and said, "Then I'll go back first. I'll watch your match tomorrow." Dake smiled and said, "Okay, if you have anything you don't understand or want to learn, you can ask me." Aurora picked up her plate and said, "I will." "Then, good night?" Dake said, "Good night." After sending Aurora off, Dake went back to his dorm. Only then did he calm down and start to draw the day's major sins. Since the start of October, including tonight, he had drawn a total of 4 times. Because greed had reached 98 points at the end of last month, he had chosen greed for the past 4 nights. Now, greed stored in the worm branch and thinking bottle had reached 13 points. Pride was still at 2 points. Bliss was 6 points. Unless Kitty Plant Flower and Wood Shop successfully developed a complete version of Bunnygrass, or he encountered other necessary uses during this period, Dark was prepared to continue accumulating bliss and greed until he could refine bliss or greed. Even if the flower of bliss or the flower of greed were only incomplete versions according to the current refining method, they were still valuable. Through the refinement and experiments of different great sin seeds, more effective research data could be obtained. With enough research data, it was possible to analyze the direction and make improvements and adjustments to the existing refining methods. Dake had pinned his hopes on the dungeon exploration next weekend. However, the god of the dungeon was just a guess. Even if it really existed, it might not be able to give him any enlightenment. Therefore, these basic research could not be neglected. It could even be said that such basic research was even more important. After drawing the great sins, Dake bathed, meditated, and quickly fell asleep. When he woke up the next morning, he picked up the 3,000 items, 8,000 training methods, and read it on the bed for a while. After that, he lazily got out of bed and washed up. Yesterday's 3 consecutive duels, especially the last duel with Sarah, had really consumed a lot of his mind and energy. The audience who first came into contact with magician duels would always think that the duel was very short and that the duelist should be very relaxed. However, in a duel where every second mattered, the consumption of mental power was unimaginable. When the magicians were highly focused, they would subconsciously use their mana to speed up their thinking. Even though the acceleration was not large, it would still cause the consumption of mental power to multiply. The magic that Dake tried to learn from a few math professors that could increase the speed of thinking had a similar drawback. After he finished washing up, he put trash slime on his face, walked out of the bathroom, and sat down in front of the desk. Not long after he sat down, the little devil beast flew into the balcony with a basket. There were 2 rolls of newspapers on the basket. They were the Great Sage Daily and the Clown Daily. Ever since he was in 2nd grade, Dake had his own newspaper subscription. The distribution point of the newspapers was the cafeteria that the students had to go to every morning. He took out the 2 rolls of newspapers, opened the lid of the basket, and put a napkin on the table. He took out his breakfast one by one and put it on the napkin, eating it in small bites. In the past, the magic elves would very cutely come over to ask for food, but now, they would go to the cafeteria to enjoy their breakfast. After Dake ate a little, he opened the Great Sage Daily and read it carefully. As expected, the headline of this morning's Great Sage Daily was indeed about the mock duel. Looks like the advertisements for the mock duel have indeed been released. Dake looked carefully and found that there was even a detailed introduction of the Silver Cup exhibition matches in the newspaper. Hero's Son, Silver Dragon Lady, and Cold Winter Lady were all widely advertised as image spokespersons for the magic duel. At the end, there was even a mysterious designer who had not yet appeared. The advertisements should all be in place, but I wonder how well the public will accept it? After Dake finished reading this part, he was a little worried. In this era where there was a lack of screen media, there were limitations to only spreading through paper media. Even if this newspaper introduced the mock duel in a very interesting way, it might not be able to convey it completely. Moreover, he actually had another worry. The mock duel could be said to be a simplified version of the magic duel. And the simplified version was very easy to be called the degraded version by others. If there were people with ulterior motives, they might belittle the mock duel based on this. Once such a situation really occurs, it will involve a battle of public opinion. Dake could not help but ponder. But he quickly smiled and shook his head. With the Shangmalian Academy and the Duke's Mansion as well as the endorsement of Hero and Valkyrie, what kind of power would be able to overwhelm them in a battle of public opinion? Or rather, did such a power really exist? After breakfast, Dake continued to study the 3,000 items, 8,000 training methods. The successful refinement of Spider Pearl, Moon Pendant, and Sickle Dagger gave him a lot of confidence. But that was because there were templates in the 3,000 items, 8,000 training methods that could be imitated. And the few items that he really wanted to refine were not in the 3,000 items. Not really, there were still some templates that were similar. It was just that the degree of similarity was somewhat mysterious. Therefore, if he wanted to refine them, he needed more adjustments and compilation. Among the 4 item cards that he planned to refine, Rhino Horn was the simplest and the easiest to refine. In the 3,000 items, 8,000 training methods, there was also an item card refinement method called Beast Horn that could be used as a reference. So, he decided to start his research with the Rhino Horn, and further learn and master the method of making item cards through practice. The morning passed quickly. Dake made some progress in his research, but it was not to the point where he could put it into practice. After lunch, he called the enchanted fairies in front of him and began to think again. According to the schedule sent by the Academy, he would be on the duel stage again this afternoon, but this time, his opponent would be a student from the House of Fools. Come to think of it, he had defeated the contestants from the Knights, Nobles and Magisters in the 3 duels yesterday, so it was indeed the House of Fools' turn today. The second-year student from the House of Fools was called Jimmy Abbott. Jimmy Abbott was like the other second-year students in the House of Fools, and his presence was relatively low. But Dake actually knew him, because he was the only second-year student in the House of Fools who had a divination talent. Because of this, he also took Professor Midya's astrology class. The House of Fools may seem inconspicuous, but there are actually a few dark horses every year. They can't be underestimated. Dake pondered for a while, then looked at the enchanted fairies and asked, "Who wants to go up?" In the 3 duels yesterday, Dake used a deck with Bliss as the core theme, and it was quite effective. But since that set of cards had already been verified, then of course that set of cards couldn't be used in today's duel. He was going to build a new deck with a total of 20 cards. At first, he wanted to try the Zoo series, but after thinking about it carefully, he realized that the only magic card that matched Bird and Beast was Zoo. If he only used Zoo as the core to build the deck, if he couldn't draw Zoo in the first 2 or 3 rounds, then even if he won, it wouldn't have much to do with Zoo. The so-called Zoo deck would probably end up as a deck made up purely of Bird and Beast. It lacked practical significance. If it wasn't for the Zoo deck, he could only build a Bliss plus Pride deck. Bliss plus Pride? Dake picked up his pen and started to think about it in his notebook. First, I need an enchanted fairy card that can use Bliss to upgrade or evolve. Enchanted Beast, Ibu. Enchanted Beast, Multiform Monster, Curse Cage, Little Devil Beast, Dream Demon, Demon Fox, Curse Cage, Sub-Ancient Beast. Secondly, I need an enchanted fairy card that can use Pride to upgrade or evolve. Enchanted Beast, Ibu, Enchanted Beast, Multiform Monster, Curse Cage, Little Devil Beast, Diru Beast, Lion Beast, Primordial Dragon Egg, Curse Cage, Sub-Ancient Beast. As you can see, the first 3 cards of these 2 sets of enchanted fairy cards overlap. Temporarily remove Curse Cage, Sub-Ancient Beast. Then combine all the enchanted fairy cards except for Curse Cage, Sub-Ancient Beast. If it comes, there will be 8 enchanted fairy cards. Since Curse Cage, Little Devil Beast, and Diru Beast are both here, I can add Fusion into it. In order to ensure that half of the enchanted fairy cards in the deck, I can add Kettle Kettle and Wrestling. Since Lion Beast is here, I can change it to a 2-star card, Enchanted Secretary. As for Single Scabbard, Weapon Form, I will still temporarily put it in the item card. After adding Bliss and Pride's Great Sin card, a simple card composition is completed. Dake wrote in his notebook, Fairy card Frowny Face Enchanted Beast, Ibu, Enchanted Beast, Multiform Monster, Curse Cage, Little Devil Beast, Enchanted Secretary, Dream Demon, Demon Fox, Kettle Kettle, Primordial Dragon Egg, Diru Beast, Lion Beast, Item card Frowny Face Single Scabbard, Weapon Form, Moon God Soul Eye, Magic card Frowny Face Bliss 3, 0, Bliss 3, Bliss 3 Month, Bliss 3 Month, Pride 3, 0, Pride 3, Pride, Underworld Soul Ring, Flight Spell. After careful consideration, Dake temporarily removed Moon Pendant from the deck, but kept Moon God Soul Eye. But this way, there would be 1 more card in the deck, from 20 cards to 21 cards. But in fact, 21 cards should be a more reasonable composition than 20 cards. According to the rules of the Enchanted Duel, you can't draw cards in the first round, and you have to draw 5 magic cards in the preparation stage. If there are only 20 magic cards, you can only draw 1 magic card in the 9th round. But if there are 21 magic cards, you can get 2 magic cards in the 9th round. So 21 cards is more reasonable than 20 cards. Anyway, that's it for now. Dake finally decided. Then he showed the enchanted fairies the composition of the deck. This time, he only put the enchanted fairies that he needed into the magic cards. The remaining enchanted fairies showed an envious look. Big Milk Can also showed a hint of loneliness. In the 3 duels yesterday, Big Milk Can didn't have a chance to fight. Today, it was replaced with Fairy Ibu by Diru Beast and Lion Beast, which made it feel a little lonely. Fairy Ibu had at least had a chance to fight. Although she was pouting, she didn't have much of an opinion. On the other hand, Hawkman, who had been replaced by Secretary of the Enchanted Arts, sat there calmly. Dake saw the expressions of the enchanted fairies, but he didn't change his mind because of this. He ordered the enchanted fairies in the cards to rest and asked, "Is there anyone who wants to watch the competition with me?" The enchanted fairies were all excited. The opening ceremony was over, and the silver cup, that was limited to the second years, no longer took up the center of the stage. The second years also didn't have to sit together in the designated seats. Dake could bring the enchanted fairies in to watch the duel. To the enchanted fairies, sitting in the audience's seats and watching the enchanted arts duel was definitely a very novel experience. After the enchanted fairies received Dake's instructions, they all began to move. Not long after, many of the enchanted fairies carried small bags filled with snacks and candies for themselves and their companions. Don't forget to bring trash bags. Although Dake felt helpless, he still reminded them. 1:00 sharp. Dake brought the enchanted fairies into the open-air duel arena. He quickly found Anna and Luo Si in the ring. This time, there were no other girls beside them. When Anna found him, she raised her hand high and waved it with all her might. Dake smiled and quickened his pace, arriving beside the 2 girls. Luckily, the seats around them were still quite empty. Dark first arranged for the magic guide fairies to sit around before sitting down in a leisurely manner. Anna looked at the enchanted fairies and suddenly laughed. She took out a bag of collector's candies from her small bag. Therefore, little Snorlax was easily hooked to her side. She rubbed little Snorlax's white and tender belly comfortably and asked Dake, "First match?" Dake said, "The 12th match in the afternoon. It's still early." "Then Luo-C will go first." Anna turned to look at Luo-C and said. Dake asked, "Is Luo-C also going to fight? Who's her opponent?" Luo-C looked a bit nervous. She turned sideways and said, "It's AI Ma. The 10th match in the afternoon." Knights Academy. AI Ma Métis vs. Aristocrats Academy. Luo-C Flotty. This classic match between Knights Academy and Aristocrats Academy attracted a lot of attention from the very beginning. Of course, if it was in the last school year, Luo-C was only Dake Diming's follower in most of the students' hearts. Therefore, this match wouldn't be as important as it was now. Her outstanding performance in the debut match and her enthusiastic appearance in the newcomers' competition had gradually changed people's impression of her. Many of the second-year students who were defeated by her in the newcomers' competition were forced to acknowledge her strength. But even so, not many people thought that she could defeat AI Ma Métis. When you think that you have improved a lot, people who are better than you might have improved more than you. Many students subconsciously had this thought. Then, they all expressed that they didn't think Luo-C would win. As for Dake, he didn't think so either. Even though Dake was cheering for Luo-C, there was a fatal flaw in her deck. If it was AI Ma, she would have seen it from her previous match. As for whether AI Ma would make specific adjustments to her deck, it would depend on how much she valued the Silver Cup and the true strength of her original deck. AI Ma might not have used her full strength in yesterday's duel. Dake, who had some understanding of her, could easily see it. But if she still wants to hide her strength in the duel with Luo-C, Dake shook his head. He didn't think it was possible. Smart people always had a clearer understanding of their own strength. AI Ma wouldn't take the risk of losing and continue to hide her strength. Then, sure enough, her duel with Luo-C was unusually fierce. Luo-C still adopted a defensive counterattack tactic, but AI Ma didn't hesitate to adopt a strong offensive tactic. She didn't even attack Luo-C's deck in a roundabout way. Instead, she attacked from all directions. In this duel, AI Ma didn't underestimate her opponent at all. She went all out from the beginning and finally displayed the powerful strength of the second-year Knight Academy's top student. Although Luo-C also tried his best to resist, in the end, he lost because of the lack of strength of his deck. Dake's first intuition after watching this match was that AI Ma had most likely been accepted as the successor of the Sage of Secrets. Although before this, AI Ma Métis's relationship with the Sage of Secrets was only limited to her mother being the Sage of Secrets' disciple. But when she returned from the Shang Malian Academy with excellent results, that relationship was no longer a shackle. It wasn't impossible even if the Sage of Secrets personally came to recruit her. The winner was interviewed, and the loser exited. Luo-C returned to the ring, obviously disappointed. Anna hurriedly comforted him and kept feeding him. Rose looked at the increasing number of snacks in her hands and finally laughed out loud. Dake said, "You didn't fall behind by much. There's no need to be depressed." Anna waved her claws and said, wait until I'm ranked with her. I'll definitely avenge you." Dake couldn't help but laugh. "Speaking of which, my opponent tomorrow is AI Ma. Does this duel club really want me to rank with the top students of all the academies?" Anna suddenly opened her eyes wide. "Tomorrow?" Dake nodded and stood up. "Yes. But I'm going to prepare for my duel with Jimmy Abbott now." Oh. Anna tried hard to remember this student's name. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.